Welcome back to another edition of the Gurus podcast. It is a full Gurus boat this week. Theo, Mike, and me, X, are here to react to Survivor 50, episode number 10. We're finally entering that home stretch here. We're still not out of the celebrity cameo woods yet, though. That was a big part of this entire episode. Before we begin, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on both our TikToks, both our Instagrams, our Spotify, and over here on YouTube. Before we begin, Mike, how was your evening tonight?
Enjoyed it. Overall, I had a lot of fun. Again, we were kind of skeptical on the 2-hour episode and the length of it, but we got a lengthy auction. So overall, I mean, we didn't go too overboard with the celebrity, but I actually enjoyed my evening of Survivor tonight. I thought we got a lot of legitimate gameplay that was out there, and I can't complain about that.
Theo?
Yeah, I mean, they played the hits tonight. We got a lot of things we like. We got letters from home. We got an auction. We got a cameo, which maybe we like, maybe we don't like. I'm sure we'll dive into that later. But yeah, it was I was fully enthralled for the 2 hours, and I think for the first time this season, Survivor got me up out of my chair tonight. So I'm sure we'll get to that later as well.
Yeah, this plus the basketball games were watchable tonight. So it was a good evening for us over here. It was a good time, but we're here to talk Survivor. We are going to go in order again this week. I think the order does matter quite a bit here with how things transpired. Let's start from the top. So we come back on day 18. We're heading into day 19. Can you believe that they're 19 days in Survivor Land into the season? I just don't understand how we're going to whittle this down to only 3 people at the end. Perhaps it's a mega 4-person, and I just don't really know what we're going to do there.
Well, here's the thing. So there's 26 days. We have a week left. There's 10 people left heading into day 19. So there'll be 9 people left heading into day 20. They can kind of get 1 person out a day, maybe 2. Maybe they can mix in 2, and then you have your fire making at night 25. And they actually are kind of on track because they only need to get out 7 more people and 6 as we're talking now. So they could do 1 double and then, back-to-back nights. At this point, they have to do a tribal a night, but they can definitely get there with the 7 days left.
Yeah, it just feels like a lot with, I believe, 3 episodes left after this. That is what I was thinking the entire time. We do get back from the last tribal from episode 9, Christian going out, and Emily essentially blames her sloppy gameplay to Ozzy on having an alliance with Christian and Devin. Emily, that is how Survivor works. Congratulations. That is how things transpire. You do have an alliance. That does not mean you have to throw out someone else you're working with under the bus as a result of that alliance. So I just didn't really understand what her point was here. And Ozzy kind of was like looking at her like, yeah, okay, flipping, whatever you say. She says she is, for the first time, on the wrong side of a vote, which, by the way, I fact checked. That is true, as far as I could find, because her last season, she was idled out. And so she was technically on the right side. Her side had the majority of the votes, but there was an idol being played, and then she was out. So a pretty impressive streak from Emily comes to an end. I think this is where I started to discredit the notion of being on the right side of votes. When flipping the season was on the right side of every single vote, that's when the wheels started turning. I'm like, does this matter as much as they want me to believe it matters? That's what planted the seed in my brain there. We talked about it off camera, this notion of like being on the right side of every vote and how that really sparked, in our opinion, from Derek Levasseur and Big Brother about a decade ago. He was the first person to really weaponize that to his advantage, casting all these unanimous votes, making sure that he was always on the right side. And since then, you've heard it in the vernacular, both in the Survivor sphere and the Big Brother sphere, and it's leaked in to Survivor big time. These players just continuously bring it up over and over again. So I thought this was a funny insight. Mike, we were talking about this off camera, and you had some thoughts.
Yeah, I think it is. So I'll just preface with saying I think it's important to be on the right side of the vote, absolutely. But I also think it's important not to be left out of a vote. So there's being on the wrong side of a vote, which is what Tiffany was whenever Dee got sent home. She sent a vote Coach's way. She knew Coach wasn't going to go home, but she just didn't want to write Dee's name down because Dee was an ally to her. Emily clearly has no issues writing down her allies' names. She just wants to be on the right side of a vote. So I do get the way that I think it's important, one, but I think two things can be true. If you're just so reliant on being on the right side of the vote and having that statistic to throw at everybody when you're in the final three, I think it can get a little misleading because the context here is Emily keeps trying to vote out all of her allies. That's really the big deal is here. She obviously voted out Christian or she didn't vote out Christian. She voted out Ozzy last week. That was the first time she was on the wrong side of the vote. But if you look at everything previous to Christian, she's voting out people that she had allegedly had working relationships with. Like she was with Angelina for a second. She was starting to work with Q for a second. She was working with Mike White for briefly. So all these people that she had relationships with, she's kind of just voting them out. I mean, even her and Savannah and Sari, they were like, trying to target Ozzy on day 2 or whatever, and she ends up voting Savannah out. So everyone that she's kind of been aligned with, she's been targeting. So I think for her aspect, it's like if you're just so gung-ho on being on the right side of the vote because it's a statistic, and I think, again, I want to make this clear. It's very important to be on the right side of the vote. I think it tells you that you're playing a strategic game and you know where the votes are going and you know how to be, kind of position yourself in a better position for the next day and going forward. But so I think that's important. But I also think that, if people like Emily Flippin are on the right side of every single vote, it can start to diminish its value a little bit.
Yeah, it's much more important to drive votes in your best interest. Like we've seen, there's lots of people in the season that are not playing well, that are not getting things to go their way. And then at Tribal, they're just throwing a vote in with everyone else. Like Joe, a bunch of times has been adamant about somebody getting out, that plan has picked up no steam. He's been like, I will never vote for this person. And then he ends up voting for them and he's on the right side. Like, does that mean he's playing a good game? No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't mean he's strategic either. And I think that's my entire issue with the premise. If you are doing it naturally, I believe Rachel was like 1 vote off from this in her season in a 47. And that low key helped her advance in the game because she was left out of a vote. It helped her kind of drive the other side and eventually set herself up to go to the end. So I think my issue with it is if it happens naturally and you are driving every vote, if you're doing like kind of what Cherie's doing right now, where she's kind of the ringleader every time, and by virtue, then you are on the right side of every vote, that is fine. But if you're doing what Joe's doing and you're like air quotes on the right side of the vote, but you're not leading anything, you're kind of a lackey, you're not getting anything done you actually want to accomplish, that's not an achievement. Like at that point, you're not actually playing Survivor. I'd rather have him try to like lead the opposition and maybe be wrong once or twice and then eventually get something done and progress that way rather than doing what he's doing right now, which is basically being a floater. And I'm not trying to target Joe right now. That like Joe just got brought up. This just goes for everybody. But I feel like that is a modern Survivor issue. It is prevalent in the new era where we just see this over and over again. And people wonder why we get to the finals and we have like 1 or 0 vote finalists. This is why, because it's like this Twitter/TikTok speak has seeped into some of their brains. And by the way, I get it because they talk about it on the island, so therefore they think it's important there. So I guess in that vein, like you're only trying to match the criteria of those around you. I truly do understand that. But we have to take a step back as a community here, as Survivor players and fans, and say, hold on, what's more impressive? Being in opposition that has a vote or two wrong, but is actually driving stuff, or just being the 8th person in the unanimous vote every week that doesn't make any decisions, and everyone who want to stay in the game ends up leaving.
The good thing is, and I'm going to push back against this, obviously, I think it's a little bit overrated leading votes. I don't think leading votes is that important, not at Final 10 or at Final 12 or whenever every single tribal leading up to this, I don't think it's that important to lead votes, even though Sari has, and Sari's the front runner. Unfortunately for Sari, the game of Survivor does not end on day 19. There are still 7 days left. And as Aubrey, good point, mentions here, the big moves start to happen around 8, 7, 6. She believes 10 is the time to strike. We'll see if she's right or not. But generally, that's the end game is what's important. It's what Aubrey lost her season on. Co wrong. Michelle was the better player in the final 8, final 7, final 6, final 5, and final 4. That's why she won at the end. So I disagree with Joe having like this premise that, oh, Joe's just not playing the game. He's floating. I think Joe's playing a really good game. I think he's playing a good strategic game. I think that the information that Jonathan told him, you can clearly see that Joe has, like, Joe's loyalty is clearly to Sari. Because if it was truly with Jonathan and Stephanie and the OGs and the Zoom alliance that he was never in really to begin with, he would never have given that information to Sari and Tiff. You can see that he made inroads with Tiff. That's social game, again, that Joe is, I think, one of the best social players of all time. But also a strategic game for Joe. Joe's covering his own bases here, and he wants to get things done. Now, did Devins go home? No, he couldn't go home. But you can see that Joe does not want to get Ozzy out. He does not want to blindside Ozzy with an idol. So he's not trying to steer that vote because that's not his intention. He's working with Ozzy. Why would you want to do that? And so I think Joe's playing. Does he have to lead votes right now? No, not necessarily.
Mike, the problem is what you're saying. Joe's the fourth person in a 4-person alliance.
That's totally
He's
fine.
actually the fourth person in a 3-person alliance. He's not even in. That's the issue. That's why he's not playing a good game.
No. Here's the thing. He's not a part of the Wizard of Oz alliance. He has his own alliance with Tiff. And he's made enough inroads with other people now where he can still, if he wants to, if he chooses, I don't know how he's going to play the game, but if he chooses to, he has a coalition that he could turn on somebody when he wants to. Is
Tiff more loyal to Cirie or Joe?
That's what it seems like.
Well, we'll find out. I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out. That's kind of where I'm hinting at. Also, one thing I want to mention, because I agree with the basic premise of what you said. You have to play a good end. You can't just play the first good 19 days and then fall apart at the end, like Aubrey kind of didn't go wrong. But you can't just wake up on day 19 either. I think that's also important. You need a mix of both. You need to be a person in the mix early, and you have to be a person in the mix late. You have to somehow marry those two concepts. Yeah. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I just want to bring that up.
100%. My overall point is I don't want to be leading votes for the first 19 days because then suddenly heading into the end game, I am the biggest target. I don't want to be the biggest. That was Maria in 46, whereas I thought Charlie did a really good job of kind of like making her lead these decisions where I'm kind of like hiding behind them. And I'm actually, eventually I have enough numbers to then turn on this person who's playing the best game. Because I think eventually people are going to realize Cirie's playing the best game.
And Mike, by the way, I think you could argue right now is Ozzy, your guy Ozzy.
But
I think they're putting pieces together there. So perhaps it's Rizzo who benefits from that. I do want to talk about this really fast. I was going to save this for later, but I just mentioned his name and I want to talk about it. There is this kind of perception that Rizzo does not have a chance on this season because he is like a new player. They don't know who he is. In a way, he almost doesn't deserve it. Mike, I want to start with you. What do you think of that notion? Because no one's really made that point, but I do think it is interesting how even now there are subtle comments made. Like Devins has been trying to get him out for a while because he's like, Rizzo is the new face, whatever. I do think it's an interesting point because I think Rizzo's playing a great game, but do you think it will be respected at the end?
I don't think for the reason that I don't think they're going to not vote for him because he's 49 and they know nothing about it. I don't think that's the exact reason. Obviously, he doesn't have the social connections that these other people have back at home. I do think, though, that this jury could be made up a lot of people that are a little bit more older school, that value challenges, that value the physical game. Rizzo's horrible at challenges. Like we can kind of just, we can kind of ring the bell on this. Rizzo's he's up there with Cirie. Let's just be real here. Cirie is an all-time not good competitor in terms of the physical. There's 3 stages of Survivor. The outplay portion is not really where she excels. She's still one of the all-time GOATs, one of the all-time legends, but that would be something where when we go to Final 3 and they talk about outplay, outwit, and outlast, Cirie will have to argue her outplay point if she ever to make a Final 3. I think Rizzo, the same thing. If he's ever to make a Final 3, he has to argue, like, what did you do in the outplay portion? You really haven't. You go out in 5 seconds in every single challenge. So I think that could be, like, for someone like Coach. Coach is on the jury. We've seen Coach as a juror twice. We know who he votes for. He's not voting for Rizzo, not for the reasons that, he's on 49, no one respects him. It's not because of that. I think it's because you'll have some people on this show, on this jury, that kind of respect a certain way of playing, and he only checks like 1 box of the 3. So I think that he has to at least show a little bit more in these challenges right now. But I think overall he's playing a good game. Like, I'm not going to criticize his overall game. I just think at the end, again, there's still 7 days left. He has to improve a little bit. Like right now, he's not competing in challenges very well. He's not really driving votes. He's kind of with, again, like Cirie and Ozzy, where they're getting their way, but it's not like he's the one driving it. It's a little bit like last year with Savannah. Well, actually, he was the one driving the votes last year. I think this year it's more take a backseat role, which I like. But again, there's 3 aspects of the game. You have to kind of check all 3 boxes at the end to get the respect of people who don't really know you to begin with.
I mean, he's a good talker, so like I think he'll represent himself well at Final Tribal, but I'd still be worried about how his story would stack up with an Ozzy or a Cirie or any of these people that have played longer and had heartbreaking exits. And not that his wasn't, but he just didn't have an exit that was seen publicly by any of the other players. So I actually do worry about that part of he's presenting a case at a Final Tribe.
If it's close, I think they'll go with like you said, I think they'll go with like an Ozzy or someone who's gone through we talk about it in sports all the time, like someone who's gone through the heartbreaks and all this other stuff. Again, not that he hasn't. It's just no one's seen it happen on their television screen. And again, it's like if it's close, if they both played similar games, you're going to lean to the other person.
Yeah, that's been a popular notion I've noticed online throughout the season. The reason I bring that up is last week we were talking about our first team all survivor. We might have to shrink down the qualifications to get on that list, or we're going to have to like lower the team total because right now people are just throwing their games away. I bring it up because I think Rizzo is one of the last locks left to be first team all survivor, and his fingerprints are like kind of subtly on this episode. We'll get back to that later. But for now, in the timeline, Devins, after Tribal, wants to start some chaos. He's talking to Aubrey. He's like, we just have to get creative. He's talking to Flippin. He's talking to Aubrey. Like, we have to get creative. We have to, like, blow this thing up. And I think that's all he can do at this point because he understands where he is. He understands he's at the bottom. So his big idea is he's going to admit to everyone that he faked the idol because in his mind, he thinks that that sends him to the bottom and that wastes a vote. I think his miscalculation here is not only does it show that, he's on the bottom, whatever, but it also highlights what he's willing to do in this game to win it, which is literally come up with these incredible concoctions to get further and pull the wool over everyone's eyes. So I understand what he was trying to do, but I think the level of deceit here was just too much for him to over explain. Like he just in no way was going to be able to send himself to the bottom to the point where no one was going to think of voting for him. He's still incredibly dangerous. He's still willing to go in the jungle and hunt for idols and all of that. By the way, I don't think we've got a single idol hunt this season, which is another thing I was thinking. So I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, Devon's admitting the idol was fake and then everyone not really loving that strategy. Joe initially was like, I still hate Devon's. Like, that's still Joe's wrath of his storm there. So, Mike, what did you think of Devon's move here?
I thought it made him look more deceptive. I was kind of with Joe again on this one. I'm just like, I love Rick Devens as a player. Again, that's why I drafted him number one. But I do think that this is kind of like you're trying to walk back what's already, but you can't kind of, you kind of have to go with it now at this point. Now he's coming clean saying, hey guys, I don't have anything. So you'd be wasting a vote on me. You're not flushing anything. On the surface level, that's fine strategy if it wasn't Rick Devens, who's already so like he's already so deceptive anyways. You can't really take anything he's saying serious, like for real at face value. Like he could be lying about this, no. He's so deceptive. I think this proving that this is fake, everyone was shocked. You could tell Joe at the last tribal was like, it's real. It's 100% real. Like he was convinced that it was real. The two tribals ago, I should say. And now he's like, wow, he just pulled one over me. Like this guy's even better than I thought he was. Like he's really got to go. He's great at creating deception. And again, with a person like Joe, that's not good in this game. He doesn't like that. So Devens, again, I think it makes him look like an even bigger threat, unfortunately. Like you can't unring the bell at this point. Like you're a big threat and you pulled off a heist of a fake idol that there's nothing there. It's just a scroll and you hit it perfectly and you executed it perfectly. And now it's like, okay, he doesn't have an idol, but he's still a really big threat.
Yeah, I mean, narratives change fast in this game, but it's hard to go from like everyone talking about you as the most dangerous player in the game, and then now all of a sudden you're presenting yourself like you're on the bottom. Like I think like he had Jonathan thinking about it for half a second, like about like, oh, is he now the easy vote? But it's Rick. He's dangerous, even if he's not aligned with anybody. He's dangerous, and everybody knows that.
That's what, real quick. I would be like, if you're someone like Rick Devens, who is dangerous, like you said, you don't want to let that person know they're on the bottom because then they're playing kind of like with nothing to lose. They're playing with house money, and then they can really start some chaos. So I think that overall, whether this worked or not to create any attention off of him, he's still a really dangerous player with or without the idol because now he knows he's at the bottom. He has that knowledge and he can kind of stir the pot a little bit.
I think what I would have done here, I think the idea of getting rid of the idol was smart. I just don't like the execution. I think he probably should have just threw it in the fire and said, everyone's scared of this. I don't want you to be scared of this. I'd rather play with you than against you. Therefore, people aren't necessarily speculating whether it's real or fake. I guess in that instance, they'd still think he's a little crazy, but they know he is anyway. So you're not getting over that hurdle regardless. So I think probably the best idea was just make it as like a peace offering for everyone. We're like, hey, I know this is influencing everyone's opinion on me. It's better if I just toss this in the fire and we're done with it. I think that could have actually garnered him some positive feedback. Instead, this just makes him look even more suspicious. So I think it was a miscalculation on his part. But what kind of bred from this was Devon's kind of willingness to do whatever. He's willing to do anything it takes to stay in this game, which leads me to the Survivor auction,
Finally.
where we get our first hint of chaos of the evening. Jeff says every item will have either comfort, chaos, or both. I like the gimmick. The problem was they didn't do a good enough job with said gimmick. Too many of the items were just pure comfort. We got a little bit of chaos mixed in. Aubrey had to call herself a psycho for, I believe, the 3rd week in a row. She's really trying to put that over on us. And basically her way of doing that this week was showing that she can eat grubs. She's so tough, man. She's so crazy. She eats grubs.
I'm
Can you
glad we got
believe it?
grubs back, by the way. I'm glad we got that's a season 1 staple.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I believe in 10 questions, it was either 10 questions or in our draft, I was really harping on, I want eating challenges back. We didn't get that here, but it was the closest thing I feel like we're going to get for the time being, so I was happy with that. I did enjoy it. And then Jonathan, shout out to Jonathan, that sea slug looked
Sea slug.
awful. It looked like, I don't even know, like not real. It looked like freaking plastic.
I would not want to do that. Not if I'm not getting
I
anything.
would not either. I think I could do the grub. I've seen it enough times, like whatever. I don't think I could do the consistency of the sea slug. So shout out to him for that. Other highlights, Sari, basically in the same vein of Yellow Sophie, saying she's not trying to buy some veggies. I did like that. We're not a Survivor to eat some fruit and some vegetables. I want some good stuff. So Sari also being rather practical with her purchases. She got a toothbrush, a blanket. She got a little like charcuterie board sort of situation. So I thought her purchases were rather smart. And then we get to the main event, which is kind of the tie-in throughout this entire episode. Mr. Beast. Everyone was happy to see Mr. Beast except Sari. I'm not sure Sari knew who Mr. Beast was, but I was actually stunned with how many other people did.
Yeah.
And then I realized a lot of these people do have children. So I figured that is how they knew who Mr. Beast was. When Stephanie was stunned to see Mr. Beast, I just simply did not have that on my bingo card. Then I realized she does have
She's
some
got
little
kids.
ones.
Yeah.
So I guess that explains that. So it was a positive reception for Mr. Beast. I wasn't sure. I think he mentions it too when he's walking up the beach. He wasn't sure how he was going to be received. I wasn't sure either, but it was a good reception. And I feel like they were actually happy to see him because I think they know Mr. Beast usually coincides with money and giving things away. So I think they thought, am I going to get like a European vacation? Am I going to get 100 grand? Like what's about to happen here? But instead, it's a little bit more convoluted because we get the Mr. Beast Beware advantage,
Super
which
beware.
has to have his big ass logo slapped in the middle of it on a briefcase, which I thought was unbelievable. By the way, as all of this is going on, Jeff is acting like everyone needs a Mr. Beast promo. Like no one's heard of this guy. We all need to be sold on Mr. Beast. Jeff should tell everyone that like Mr. Beast paid me to be here. Because I feel like Mr. Beast had to have paid him. I know they did like a home and away. Like Jeff was on like Beast Games or something, and now the Beast is here. I don't know. But this felt like one big ad. And look, Mr. Beast doesn't need one big ad. He's the biggest YouTuber in the entire world. We don't need to be told how amazing and great and big of a fan of the show he is. It was endless. It was like beating us over the head with how awesome Mr. Beast is this entire episode. But man, was he laying it on thick. But I did appreciate everyone else kind of chiming in on how awesome Mr. Beast was. It took me out of Survivor for a second. I'm like, you know what? These people haven't like watched TV for a few weeks. They haven't ate. They're so happy by just seeing Mr. Beast in front of them. Just a celebrity, B-list celebrity, A-list. I don't know what we consider Mr. Beast nowadays, but
I don't know.
the fact that rocked their world, I thought was actually kind of endearing.
No, I liked it. I mean, this to me, I don't know how the Survivors felt, but this to me was more authentic and more. I thought it was more fun than the Zach Brown one. We've been crushing the past episodes. We're like, why isn't Jimmy Fallon here, or why isn't Billie Eilish here? If they're impacting the game so much, why don't they actually have the island? So I'm just glad that Mr. Beast was there and we didn't get so much of him. Like again, not to keep harping on it, but we got like 8 Zach Brown confessionals. I'm glad we didn't get any of that. It was a Mr. Beast cameo. He was good. He impacted the game. It was fun. It was during the auction. So that all was good fun and well. But overall, I thought like it was received better than I anticipated because everyone was like, okay, are they going to edit him like they edited Zach Brown and just kind of give him more confessionals than Tiffany and give him 30 minutes of screen time? It wasn't that overloaded, even though Jeff himself is kind of like he's kind of fanboying out in real time with Mr. Beast standing right next to him. So yeah, that was typical Jeff. But I thought overall it added to what was, I thought, a pretty fascinating auction.
Yeah, I thought it was a better use of our time than like the usual challenge for reward and then afternoon at the sanctuary. I definitely enjoyed this more. Our time with Jimmy. If you didn't know, his name was Jimmy before today. Jeff said it about 100 times. But no, I was kind of dreading the Mr. Beast episode, but I thought he fit in a lot better than Zach Brown did. And he actually went out to Fiji, unlike some of these others. So yeah, shout out to.
Did you notice how Jeff is on a first name basis with Jimmy? He kind of made that an emphasis of tonight. He's like, oh yeah, I call him Jimmy. You guys know him as Mr. Beast, but me and him we're tight. We go by the first name. It's like me calling.
I think he said everything besides the fact he wanted to kiss him. Like it was pretty heavy. I mean, it was getting ridiculous. The only thing I kept thinking the entire time was, man, those veneers are large. Like I just kept that smile was just permanent the entire episode. Jimmy was just grinning ear to ear. It was almost like he was an animatronic for a time. I didn't really know what was going on. And by the way, I want to bring this up. I had no idea what this was going to be. I had an inkling, I guess. Like I thought perhaps someone could be entering the game or something of the sort. Or I didn't really know what this could possibly be in real time. It was so out of left field. They were acting like it was the biggest thing in the world, but truly no one had any concept of what this could be. So it was a weird dynamic that we were told, like, this is unbelievable. This is going to change everything. But we didn't actually know what that meant.
I saw rumblings of what it could be on Twitter. Everyone's kind of like wondering what it could be because Mr. Beast, what comes with Mr. Beast is probably something big. Whether it's good or bad, it's going to be something huge. So you got to expect, obviously, a never before seen thing. I read, and I didn't give any attention to it, but I read that you swap places with a juror. That would have been way worse than Christian's last week, which would have been just like an unbelievable disadvantage. So I thought, okay, if this is like a, beware, because obviously with beware advantages, it's good or bad. You either get the advantage or you get your idol or you lose your vote, whatever it is. This is a super beware advantage, Mr. Beast super beware advantage. So I thought if it had anything to do with, going home or swapping places with that would have been obviously not even Survivor at that point. We didn't get that. But, just the entire lead up to it, I'm like, well, what could it be? And then, of course, we're saving it for tribal council. So we don't even know. It's more anxiety where we get him at the auction, but then it's like, oh, yeah, by the way, he won't unveil what this beware advantage is until tribal council. So do with that what you will and vote how you may, but this will play a part in the game.
The setup of it, I thought they were going to go compete for it immediately. And then once they moved it back to tribal, I was like, I don't know what it's going to be, and I don't know how they're going to decide who gets it. So it did leave a lot of suspense in the episode.
Yeah, because they were insinuating it was for one person, but they never explained how that was going to occur. Obviously, we know now. But at the time, it was fairly confusing. I think the reveal was decent. We can talk about the concept later. I think the reveal was solid. Like, it made sense why they held on to that information. I think if they even let out bits and pieces of that, it wouldn't have worked the same. But I think they did a good job of teasing it throughout. Now, perhaps we could have got a more general category of, like, this is going to perhaps send someone home or something like that, where we got like a subheading in a way. I think that could have led to a lot more chaos, and that could have really, like, amped up everyone's anxiety. But for what it was, it felt like it bred enough chaos. So
what I thought initially was like Pandora's box on Big Brother, where it's like if you open this box, something good might happen to you, but something bad might happen to everybody else. Or
Mike, before this week, I genuinely thought that's what it was going to be. I thought it was going to be Pandora's box X.
Like
that's a great point.
Yeah, like the advantage might be good for you, but bad for everyone else, or good for everyone else, bad for you. So I didn't know who was going to get it, but I thought it could have affected everybody. In this case, it really, I mean, we can get to it later, but it doesn't really affect everybody. And, it affects one person who gets it. And, by that.
It affects two people.
Technically, it affects two people. Yes, you're right. But it wasn't like I thought it would be like a thing where I don't know what I even thought. You really can't even ponder because it's never before seen. So you can't really explain this could be this because it hadn't happened before. So you kind of have to see it play out. And again, I thought the overall explanation of it and the unveiling of it was good. I just had no idea what it possibly could be. And I was honestly expecting the worst, and I didn't get the worst. So that's good.
So right from the auction, we did get the immunity challenge where Steph, I mean, this is just pathetic. A 3-second challenge performance from Steph here. It is the challenge where you have to balance the ball and your foothold gets more severe the longer you last. It shrinks and you're on a tougher angle. So it works your core, it works your legs, it works your balance. It's pretty much everything here. And there's not really much that happens here. That's why I'm not a huge fan of this one. The drama, it takes a little bit too long to ramp up for me. The showdown is between Tiff and Ozzy. Ozzy still does have history on the line. A win here does tie Boston Rob for the most ever. He is unable to do that. Tiff beats him out. It is her second immunity necklace of the season. Really impressive stuff from Tiff. I feel like she's been a really solid competitor on this season. She breaks down immediately afterwards because she says last time she was on Survivor, she was out on day 19. So she just kept telling herself, day 19, it won't be day 19 again. And you could see it. I thought this was very impressive. She barely flinched for most of this. It was a great effort. I'm really impressed with Tiff. To say we barely saw her for the first like 5 episodes, I think she's come on fairly strong. Perhaps she hasn't made enough inroads to actually like influence the game. There's still a lot of game to be left, for sure. But I do think what she's been able to accomplish since her rough start, both from an editing standpoint and honestly like an actual standpoint as well. Her only ally for much of the pre-merge was Aubrey. She couldn't really like talk to anyone else. She ended up being friendly with Joe out of happenstance. It wasn't like she created that bond herself. So Tiffany really coming on here.
Yeah, I thought Tiffany had a really good episode again. I mean, it's one of the things we talked about last week where pre-merge she was close with Aubrey in the very little we got of her, and then post-merge or once we merged, or I guess we merged and then went to the Blood Moon. She was close with Camilla, and then she was close with Dee, who went out back to back. So it's like, okay, how is she going to rebound from this? I think it's a little bit of like what you said earlier, where maybe it's a little too late, where she kind of has awoken now. It's what, day 18, day 19, but she's starting to play the game, and she's starting to play a really good game. It might just be a little bit too late. But I mean, if you told me it's down to Jonathan, Joe, Tiff, and Ozzy, really more specifically Ozzy, it's not just winning an immunity challenge against those three guys. It's winning an endurance comp against Ozzy, who's won a bunch of endurance comps. Like that is impressive in itself. That's something you can say in the final three. It's like, hey, I beat this guy in an endurance comp. That's, coach will be like, wow, that's impressive. So overall, I thought Tiffany had a good episode. I'm glad that she won it. I think she deserves to be safe for another tribal council. I know she was safe with Joe in the pairs, the duos, tribal council, but I think solo, to actually have an individual immunity, that a win of your own, in a situation where she's lost so many of her allies, the little allies that she did have, she's lost them. I think it's good for her to be safe for this episode and kind of to avoid the Mr. Beast chaos of it all.
Yeah, this started, I said this is an Ozzy challenge. Like, this is a challenge Ozzy wins almost every time. Yeah, Jonathan and Joe, they were going to be good, but as the footholds got smaller, I thought they would bow out. But it was Tiff, shockingly, does it again. And I was on her a couple weeks ago when the notion of like the middle player started. I said she was the one that was kind of actually in position to play the middle. I think she's doing a good job. A lot of shots of her sitting in the hammock with Sari, and Sari seems to actually enjoy her. That's the position you want to be in the game. So I think she's doing well socially. And now she's winning some challenges. I don't think she's going to build up any win equity, but I'm also don't think her name's going to be written down in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, got to tip your hand at production. I think she was one of the ones before the season where we were like, are we sure like this is a good pick by production? Like why she's on the season? And then they just didn't show her to us for the first, 6 weeks. But yeah, now I'm enjoying having her on my screen every week. So shout out to Tiff.
And I'm totally good with her coming back. My issue is more like on a different season. I said the same thing with Camilla. I would have wanted to see her on a different season where we actually can show her more. I thought in a season like this, like I wouldn't have hated if, and it was not Tiffany more so. I thought for me it was more Angelina. Like I thought we could have dropped Angelina and maybe brought in Jerry, maybe brought in Amanda, someone from pre-40 to replace an Angelina if they wanted to do 12 each, 12 new era, 12 old pre-40. But again, I'm totally fine with Tiffany being on the season. If they're going to show us to her and showcase what she's doing, like that's actually cool. But to hide us for like the first 6 episodes, I mean, it's like, why did you have her on then if you're not going to show her at all? Like that was kind of questionable to me because there was already things going into the season. It's like, well, why is she on this season? You could have put her on a returning season with like somebody else that is maybe like in a different. Like we had Game Changers, or we had Cambodia Second Chance, and then for people who did not get on Second Chance, you had those people back for Game Changers. I thought we could have done that with Tiff on a different returnee season, but you're seeing why she's on 50.
Yeah, I think with Tiff, for me, it was also Angelina, but for Tiff, I just didn't really know what to expect because I believe she had the lowest placement of everyone, like, of their best prior placements on this cast. So, I didn't really understand. I thought she was a good character her first go around. I just didn't know how they landed on her in a way. I think perhaps it was to fit the new era woman quota. I just didn't really understand. But, I'm starting to get it now. I think perhaps she was an underrated competitor her last go round, and maybe she's just growing into it here. I'm not too sure. But I like what I'm seeing from her, and I would welcome her back again. I think she has a good eye for the game. I think she has tremendous heart as well, both as a competitor and as just a strategist. So Tiff really making the most of her minutes here. By the way, after the comp, Jeff is really pushing the super advantage.
Mm.
He's just beating us over the head with how amazing Jimmy is and how super this advantage is as well. So just more of a tease there. Then we get back to camp, and at the auction, the basically flip side of Mr. Beast was everyone was able to get their letters from home. So now everyone goes to read their letters from home. And this is where Aubrey kind of shows up in a big way. She mentions, and it's obvious, but it's not something exactly I was thinking about at this point. No one here has won before, which means in a way, no one knows how to win. All these people have had pitfalls that have caused them to lose. And by the way, for all my Suri fans out there, that includes her too. Like, I know you don't want to admit this, but her being totally a zero at comps does impact her chance to win. If she could just win one or two comps occasionally, that would have probably won her a season by this point. The fact she can't has hurt her, and I love Suri, and I think she's GOAT adjacent. But Aubrey does make a good point. All of these people have had mistakes, and she, of all people, this kind of made me laugh. She borrows from Michelle, who she lost to in Koa Wrong, who even here she couldn't resist saying, "I should have beaten." She just will never get over that.
Yeah.
But she still says, like, "Hey, I believe I should have won, but I still can take things from Michelle as to why the jury respected her over me." I believe she said people were kind of bitter towards her gameplay in particular. So she's trying to figure out how to basically put herself in a better position this go round to, if she gets to the final tribal, to be able to basically talk her way into the grand prize. What did you think of Aubrey's confessional here? I thought this was one of the better confessionals of the season.
I agree. First of all, before that, I want to say I love the loved one letters being back. I think it gives you a chance to get more personable with the. I mean, you saw the Rick Devens, Becca Devens with a beautiful letter. Cerie's dad finally writing a letter to her. So I thought the loved one letters I always love. I thought it was a great part of Winners at War. They didn't actually brought everyone's loved ones there, which I thought was unbelievable. But for Aubrey here, her letter is just reminiscing her about Go Wrong, which I thought, obviously, it's very controversial. She just talked about it this week on Rob Has a Podcast. She just was talking about how she still believes to this day that she should have beat Michelle. But, Aubrey's jury management that season wasn't great. There was a lot of people that did not love the way she played the game. So, that does matter. The juries ultimately decide the game. So I think this time around, she's at least trying to learn from the mistake of when she actually did make the final three the last time, because again, people on the season have made final threes. They just haven't won. She knows that feeling of making the final three, just not having won it yet. So I think right now you're going to see maybe an overcorrection on, okay, how do I play this end game? Because the end game in Ko Wrong, like, she was loyal to Sydney, but then she had to beat Sydney in Fire in Final Four. She couldn't win that last immunity challenge. She was loyal to Joe. Joe got medevac to Final Five. Like, that sucks. It's out of your control. But he's still on the jury. But you need to work up more of those jurors that if you get to the final three, you have them in your pocket and you can at least explain your game a little bit better. I think this time around, if she does get that far, she'll probably have a better idea of what to do.
Yeah, I mean, jury management, it matters a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people on the cast this season that didn't win their season because of jury management, even though they feel like they should have won ultimately. I mean, the people that decided who won the game didn't think they should have won, which is part of the game. But just, yeah, it has me thinking about this season, and I'm not sure, like, what the if we have like a kind of a theme that this jury's going to be looking for. I don't think that's clear yet on this season based on who is on the jury now. It is kind of forming in more of an old school way, but I'm still not sure kind of what the core tenets of this season are going to be.
That's what I was trying to figure out too, is does she have a read on what she's supposed to do? Because she keeps talking about big move, big move, big move. But you can do that as many times as you want until you achieve it. It doesn't really matter. And even when you achieve it, you still have to build upon that. One big move does not win you Survivor. So I was a little confused about her long-term layout here because she does say it's at the point where we have to do something. The numbers are dwindling. That's her exact words. And she's fearful she's running out of basically people to play with. And she turns to Jonathan. So that's my first thing. Like, is she trying to get to Jonathan because, like, you have Coach and Chrissy on the jury already? Like, you're trying to build with that crowd, but then also make a big move for, like, D and Christian. So, like, is she trying to kind of have her cake and eat it too here? Like, bridge between playing with the honor integrity people, but also, like, making new era style moves? But then wouldn't that just upset the honor integrity people? So I actually don't really fully understand the game plan here. But again, she is trying to talk to Jonathan here, and she's scared of Ozzy. That's as simple as it is. She is scared of Ozzy, and Jonathan actually noted the change in demeanor. He noted Oscar, that Oscar has arrived, that he's playing more strategic and a more cerebral game this go round. And Jonathan even goes as far as selling to Steph that Ozzy was souring on her, which I thought showed a lot of gall from Jonathan, because I think that was kind of a risky play. Because Steph and Ozzy do go way back, and there's a chance here Stephanie doesn't really fully buy what Jonathan's selling, even though they're supposed to be working together, and then goes to fact check with Ozzy and gets turned off by Jonathan. So the fact that Jonathan was able to sell that so quickly and so effortlessly, I think also shows the impressive game he is playing right now. But what do we make of this Aubrey Jonathan coalition starting up, targeting Ozzy in particular here, Theo?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're correct. I mean, Ozzy is dangerous on this season. Like he's playing very well, and I think it's an interesting coalition. I mean, I think Jonathan also like he's playing well too, and I think that's a good kind of shield if Aubrey wants to make a big move because it's something Jonathan's been trying to do successfully at times and unsuccessfully at times. So I kind of like it for Aubrey. I mean, Jonathan's doing it like he kind of tried to make a big move tonight. It didn't work, and then he was still able to kind of pin it behind Stephanie and hide behind Stephanie. So yeah, it's interesting to see how that works going forward.
That was wild to me. So first of all, I agree with Theo that every single time Ozzy plays this game, he's a target around this time of the game. They're like, oh wait, Ozzy's still here. We got to get him out. He's too good. So, that has dawned on me, obviously. So I'm not surprised to hear it. The Aubrey Jonathan inkling started out last episode. In the first like 15 minutes, they kind of shown us that, okay, they're having something that's possibly to come in the future here. I just thought it's wild to me, and maybe I'm skipping ahead of here a little bit, but Jonathan and Aubrey, their plan is Ozzy. That is their plan. They come to Stephanie with this plan, and like you mentioned, X, Jonathan's kind of like a salesperson, kind of selling Ozzy to her. He's like, Ozzy was kind of turned off by you a few days ago when I was bringing up, he was like bringing up Stephanie's name. He's like, I'm getting mixed vibes from her. That never made our screens, I don't think. Like, I think he kind of just exaggerated that and said that, Ozzy's kind of thrown under the bus. I don't think that ever happened, or at least didn't make the edit. And even Jonathan said in his confessional, like, yeah, I'm kind of like selling this a little bit. I'm a little exaggerating the point. So he's playing a bit of a cutthroat game. Like we talked about this in the Blood Moon episode, whenever he went with the honor and integrity crowd, but he's really not playing that way this year. Like he's playing with those people, but he's not afraid to turn on those people either. In this case, obviously he turns on Steph. But the point is, in this entire sequence here, I thought it was the most important part of the episode, really, outside of obviously what happens later with Mr. Beast, because Steph is the one who gets pinned as like the Ozzy plan. This is Steph's idea. Steph wanted to get Ozzy out, and of course, if Sarit gets wind of it, of someone trying to get Ozzy out, they go home normally. Outside of Emily last week, they usually go home. So it's weird to me that Steph was the one that it was pinned on. It's like, oh yeah, Steph's planning to get Ozzy out, when in reality, it's Aubrey and Jonathan who are kind of planting the seeds and then standing behind watching the chaos ensue.
Don't really understand why they are going for Ozzy in particular. I think Cherie makes a lot more sense here. I think, and they talk about this a little bit later, about how they trying to like lure Ozzy's idol out and then perhaps vote out Rizzo with an idol in his pocket. What if you just voted out Cherie, who's like clearly leading that side? It is not a secret who's leading that side. And I think that's my biggest gripe with the gameplay going on right now. Everyone's talking about wanting to make a big move. Everyone's talking about wanting to get out big targets. But their idea of big targets and a big move is just so far and away different than what we think is. And it's not just us having the luxury of being at home. I want to make that incredibly clear. This is not an edit thing. This
Monday
is not
morning.
a knowledge that we have and they don't thing. They know Cherie is the queen. They know this. And yet, for some reason, it's like, oh, we'll take out Ozzy instead. Why? There's a way you can lure his idol out theoretically and then vote out Cherie, or you can lure Rizzo's idol out and then vote out Cherie. Like that is more impactful. They're worried about him and challenges. Like I guess I get it. He's making it far in these, but do we really think Ozzy's gonna like run the table against like Jonathan? Like that's just not gonna happen. Like or Joe or even Tiffany now, like with Tiffany's acclimate, like that is not going to happen. I know he's playing well in these comps, and I think he's like 85% of prime Ozzy, maybe 80%, whatever the case may be. So that is incredibly threatening still. But it's not like he's racking all of these up. Like at the end of the day, you have to continuously win them. He's not doing that right now. I understand what the fear is, but we're not there yet. There's too many other good competitors for Ozzy to just win like 5 immunities in a row.
So here's where I would play devil's advocate a little bit. I agree that I think
Please.
Suri is I think their perception on the island is that Suri is someone you can take out at Final 5 or Final 4 because
She can never win anything.
never win fire. She can't win her way to Final 3, right? Obviously, you said that. And I don't think anyone's dumb enough, air quotes, I don't think anyone's dumb enough to take her to Final 3 because you'd be accepting a loss. So I think at Final 4, she's kind of like the perfect person to bring to Final 4 in the case that she doesn't win immunity. It takes 3 different things happening, but I don't think she'll win immunity. I don't think she'll win fire, and I don't think anyone will bring her to Final 3. So I think that's what their perception on the island is. To me, I think remember last year, season 49, it was this idea of, okay, Rizzo has a public idol, Savannah's kind of running that alliance, and then Nate is kind of like the safe, Nate's here too. In my opinion, Savannah is like Suri in this season. I think Suri's kind of running that alliance. Ozzy has a public idol. He's being targeted, obviously, because of that idol. And then Rizzo in this case is like, why don't we just put 6 on Rizzo? It's just like, he won't see it coming. We'll just vote him out. It's safer than going for an Ozzy or Suri because they have connections to other people on the island. So maybe let's just vote Rizzo out. I kind of disagree with this. Again, I kind of think that the plan is Suri. And we said this last year when we were doing season 49. I was like, why didn't they just get rid of Savannah? Like, you took out Nate. It's like, okay, big deal. You left a big threat in the game. And then, of course, we saw what happens after that. And you left Rizzo's idol in the game, too. So I thought if you're going to go after somebody, Ozzy and Suri would be the ones to go after here. And it looked like, but right before Tribal, maybe Rizzo's name was going to get thrown in. They're like, okay, we'll put 6 votes on Rizzo. We'll steal someone's vote and vote Rizzo. And it looked like maybe Rizzo was an option. But ultimately, I think, we don't know how it's going to be portrayed because I still thought Rick Devens was in big trouble. But all the plans that were speeded out before Tribal Council, I must have heard everyone's name, like 7 different names that were thrown out. Aubrey's name was thrown out. Steph's, Suri, Ozzy. Almost everyone besides Joe and Tiff were thrown out, I feel like, as names. So I don't know how it would have gone down. It was so chaotic. But I think that on the island, they believe Suri is kind of someone you can take out whenever you can or whenever you want. I disagree with that kind of. But in this case, I see why Ozzy is the bigger threat because he's got the idol. He can win some immunities. Like, when can you take him out? Usually, this is the time that Ozzy gets taken out. So I get their thought process. It's just kind of like, happens.
Another one I'm surprised about, I guess it's because he's the one that's elevating threats when making plans. But I thought, like, as soon as we got to the individual competition portion of the season, I thought Jonathan was going to be voted
Theo,
out.
can you put a pin in that? We're going to talk about that in a second. I think that's a great point. I do want to say this quick on Suri. But what Mike's saying as far as, like, perhaps their logic is 100% correct. The problem is the damage she can inflict before Final Four can be so detrimental to all of their games that might not matter. So I feel like they're thinking too short-sighted there.
You can't rely on Suri being someone you can take out of Final Four. You have to get to Final Four first. Like, she's taking up one of your chairs at Final Four, basically, is what we're saying here. Like, you can't just be like, we'll get Suri out whenever. You might be gone before you get to Final Four with the chance of getting Suri out.
She's going to hurt your game every week.
Yeah.
My God, yeah. And who knows what she can sew into other people's brains as well. She's brilliant at that. I do want to pin in Jonathan just for a little while longer. I do want to wrap up this Ozzy thing because Devins and Flippin love the idea to get out Ozzy. Obviously, they just voted for him, so this is music to their ears. They're like, of course we'll vote out Ozzy. That's one less person that has to be upset with us. But then, as Mike alluded to earlier, Joe runs and tells Sari the plan,
Mhm.
which inherently shows that Joe trusts Sari a bit more than he does the, Jonathan and Steph crowd. It never really felt like he was 100% in with them. I didn't think he was this close to Sari, though, until right now. So that kind of shows where he is at this point in the game. But this is way more of an indictment on Sari's brilliance. Like, I literally typed in capital letters, this is aura. Like, this is like the mob boss having someone come in
Tell
from
me.
the rival gang, like bowing before them, like, I'm loyal to you now. Like, this is just unbelievable stuff that she's accomplishing on the season. It is like, it's next level. I actually like can't believe what she's been able to do by getting all the information from everyone else. But unfortunately, this is where my complimenting of Sari ends this week. And that's where we unpin the Jonathan points. This is where we're at right now. So Sari hears the plan that it's supposed to be Ozzy. And then Steph comes up and lies to Sari's face. Steph is like, oh, what's the vote? Like, what's going on? Sari is incredibly annoyed by this because she knows Stephanie personally. They seem to be friends, despite what happens on all of these shows that they're on together. They do seem like they have a
They're
relationship.
cordial. Yeah.
And Sari just simply knows when Steph's lying at all points. She's like, yeah, she's lying to me. Like, I understand that she looks away. She gets a little nervous. Like, I read her like a book. My problem is, if you know when someone's lying to you, and you're right every time, by the way, and you know you can get the better of her at any point. She's a decent competitor. I think her competition acumen has definitely fallen off the longer we've been on this season. I just don't understand the issue with her staying around a little bit longer. Yes, she lied to you. Yes, she has an advantage. You can easily flush that advantage out. It's not like it's some like unbelievable like block 2 votes or something like that. One of these supersized advantages we've seen in the last few years. It's just a simple steal a vote. Like, we know how to play around that at this point. I cannot fathom not going for Jonathan here. You are being told that it is Jonathan who is part of spearheading this against Ozzy. You know that Ozzy, to an extent, is tight with Jonathan. They're always talking with each other. We've seen that in the past. Someone brought that up last week. I think it might have been Christian, where like Ozzy is trying to like remain with the bro guys, like with Jonathan and Joe. He's always around those guys. If you're Sari, I cannot fathom looking at this and saying, okay, so Ozzy is close to Jonathan, but Jonathan does not have Ozzy's best interest in mind. I can get closer to Ozzy by getting Jonathan out. And by the way, Sari, your best path to the end is if Ozzy wins immunity and takes you to the end. So by getting out Jonathan, that is one more person that can theoretically beat Ozzy in a competition. If Ozzy only has to play Joe and Tiffany, then his likelihoods of winning anything go up. Then if you get out Joe a few episodes from now, then his likelihood of winning goes up. If you're Sari, you have to understand the reason why you're not winning this game is because you can't win comps. So you might as well have someone win comps for you. And that's been one of the biggest detriments of Sari's history is that she's not aligned herself with someone who can win at the end on her behalf. Because by that point, they're just all aware that Sari's too dangerous. Ozzy seems like he has unwavering loyalty to Sari, and Sari's basically playing half of Ozzy's game for him right now. So why wouldn't you look at the chessboard right now and say, if I pluck off Jonathan, my odds to win this game go way up because of Ozzy's ability to then be not only a bigger target from this point on, so that saves you a bit, but also because Ozzy can win more comps theoretically without Jonathan in the way. And Jonathan, by the way, we're just talking physically here. Strategically, he's leading a lot of the opposition. That's another brain plucked off that side. See you later. Goodbye. Then all of a sudden, it's just Steph, who, let's face it, Steph's not a good strategist. We've seen her a million times, both on this show and other shows. She gets beat by Suri every time. It's easy for her. She just wipes her hands like this. It's done. Like, there's no need to feel some type of way because she lied to your face. She's lied to a million freaking times. Like, that's what Stephanie does to you. And your response is usually you get her out when you want. That shouldn't have been right now.
Yeah, my only thing I can only imagine, maybe she thought that Ozzy and Stephanie were closer than Ozzy and Jonathan. Like that, maybe she thought that way on the island. Again, we don't know. We're kind of Monday morning quarterbacking here, but maybe she thought that, Ozzy and Stephanie being OGs, maybe they're tighter than Ozzy's kind of putting on this front with the bros. Maybe Ozzy never trusted Jonathan. I don't know. I think I kind of agree with you. I don't want to for some reason. I don't want to agree with you, but I do. I think Jonathan is the right person to go out here. And again, we've questioned Cerie's. I'm almost wondering, is this kind of like because her and Steph have beef, or not beef, but because they have history together, and Cerie's voted her out, on the show before. I almost wonder if this is one of those things where Cerie just wants to just.
By the way, Mike, and Traders, which I feel like is important because
100%.
Stephanie was trying to confide in Cerie and Traders. A show Cerie won, by the way.
She won that, yeah, of course. Oh, so I think that almost like this one, she wants to kind of just win the battle, but I think the war is going to be won if you take care of Jonathan first in the order here that they're going out. I think taking Steph out here first, with spoiler alert, she does go after Steph here. I think the order of it probably is wrong because I think I would just leave Steph in the game. Yeah, the steal vote's dangerous for sure. Maybe her connection with Ozzy is a little more dangerous to Cerie in her mind, even though maybe we're watching at home and saying, Ozzy in his confessional said he kind of got mixed vibes from Stephanie in their first tribe swap at Vatsu together. So, and that continued at the merge. So maybe he wasn't that close with Stephanie. In that case, you keep Stephanie around, who still obviously does want to confide in you because Steph did confide in Cerie in this episode. I know she wanted to eventually turn the voter out, but the first thing Steph did was kind of try to tread lightly and try to go up to Cerie and kind of lie to her, which she, of course, does not do. She obviously is not a good liar to Cerie. To Cerie specifically, she can't, if the bullshit meter goes off. But Steph's not trying to get Cerie out initially. She's not. So she's trying to go along with the plan that Jonathan and Aubrey concocted and try to get it over Cerie, which she can't quite do. But I think that for Cerie to turn around and then vote her out when it's clearly not Stephanie's plan, it's Jonathan and the combination of the two and Aubrey. I think the correct person to go after here is Jonathan. I just think Cerie is maybe looking at it more as like, I have history with Steph. Let's just get her out now. Jonathan, I'll deal with him later. Maybe that's what she's thinking. I don't know. But it did feel to me like a little bit more like because her and Steph have personal history, maybe this vote was a little more personal than it was strategic.
Yeah, I don't think Steph was in a good place in the game, and I don't think she felt good about her relationships, which is why I think she ran with Ozzy's name because she just heard Jonathan brought up a name with her. It was a name that wasn't hers. Just someone was talking strategy with her, and she was gung ho to make that happen. And then just to follow up on the Jonathan point, like, yeah, I thought he would be one of the biggest threats post-merge just off physical acumen. And that was with me kind of expecting him to play a poor strategic game. And he's actually been good.
Yeah. That's the big thing here. I thought that the fact that he was able to pin this, I don't know if he intentionally did it or not, but the fact that Steph seemed surprised whenever he brought up Ozzy's name. Like, yeah, Ozzy's been turned off by you. Like, she genuinely looked a little bit surprised by that. And then she was on board with Ozzy. But she was not initially going into that night going Ozzy. She was going to go Devins, and then the Ozzy plan was brought to her. Yet by the end of the episode, it seems as if it's Steph's plan to get rid of Ozzy. And of course, this entire episode is just basically like Cerie, the second she hears whose name Ozzy's name came out of, she's targeting that person. Well, Ozzy's name did not just come out of Stephanie's mouth. It came out of Jonathan's mouth, and she knows that. And she chose to take out Stephanie here, which I thought was really interesting. Like, I really thought that the people on the island would come together and be like, Jonathan's playing, man. Like, not only is he, like you said, a physical beast, he's playing strategic. Like, he's kind of playing a cutthroat game right now. And there's still a lot of honor and integrity people left on that island. Kind of thought that he was going to be the one that kind of got the backlash here. Instead, if we bring up Cerie and Steph's past, and ultimately that, reigns the day here. I just kind of thought that she kind of got screwed by, Jonathan and Aubrey's plan going to her, and her being the one that, the perception is that it's her plan.
We've been pretty complimentary of Steph throughout most of the season. Like, she was in running for like most improved player. Last time she's out on the island, she's the first one who goes home. It's just a disastrous showing where she just simply cannot understand why she has to avoid Tom, who they had a pre-existing relationship and they played together. So she just can't fathom that. She just doesn't make inroads with anyone else, and eventually she goes out. And then here it felt like she aligned with the right people. She got hosed a little bit for sure. Kobe gets injured and Kyle gets medevac.
Genevieve
So
also, her
and,
number.
and Genevieve gets absolutely hosed. So her three big allies all kind of crumble around her with like she can't do anything about that. It's out of her control. But she still had plenty of time to pivot in the last few weeks. Like, she was probably on, like, my all survivor ballot for a little while. She felt like she was the last name. The last few weeks, she just fell off totally. Like, I wasn't even having her as, like, a receiving votes. Like, she was just totally off for me. And then as far as most improved, I think she kind of fell out of favor there too. I think she's kind of done with that award now. So I just felt like Stephanie had time. By the way, I think I'd vote Jonathan for that now.
Probably, yeah, yeah.
Stephanie had time to really sink her teeth in. It could have been with Suri and Ozzy. I don't think that would have ever worked because she's never shown capable of pulling one over on Suri, and she would have had to do that,
I do.
presumably.
Yeah.
But I think, to me, it felt like Jonathan never really respected her opinion a ton on strategy. And I got that vibe a lot just from the way they were talking about floating people out, but also today with how he was just lying to her so easily. Like, yeah, like he's floating your name out. Like, I think if you're truly like a number one with someone, you're not necessarily having to do that. You're just like, oh, like I want to get them out. I know you have a prior relationship with them, but this is best for us, and here's why. I think he understood that Steph is kind of an emotional player, and I thought early when she had a group around her, she was thinking strategically. I think as time has gone on, she's reverted back to that like super emotional, like we'll kind of go with the win kind of player.
I am a little surprised though. Like I actually thought that Jonathan and Steph were closer than what they were. Like when Coach was kind of distancing himself from the actual alliance with kind of his shenanigans, I always saw Jonathan and Steph together. Prior to last episode, I never once saw Jonathan and Aubrey together. So I'm really surprised that it was so easy for him to lie right to Stephanie's face, who it seemed like he had more of a rapport with than Aubrey prior to day 18. And now they're both kind of bombarding Steph, and she takes the fall. But it's just, I really thought that Jonathan did respect Steph's opinion a little bit more than that. It feels like to me, he and Aubrey are starting to play the game right now, and he's trying to fish. He's trying to kind of be like, again, the salesperson here and kind of sell Ozzy as someone to Steph, who I don't think Steph would have turned on Ozzy. She had no reason to. She says to the tribal council, she's like, I'm not gonna lead a vote unless I hear my name first. And Ozzy never once went after Steph either. Like that was all other people kind of using their influence and kind of being an antagonist and kind of sparking something that was really never there. I think Suri even mentions it. Like, we didn't have to actually go against each other right now. Like, this was not something that had to happen. She just doesn't really concoct who was the one actually behind it initially. Like, it's not really Steph. She's just kind of the one that's taking a fall for it. So I am surprised that Jonathan, this worked. I don't know if he intended on one of his allies going home. Like that, I don't think that was an intention of his. Like he did not drive this vote. So if Jonathan's in the final three being like, yeah, I was on the right side of the vote, I got Steph out, like you were actively working with Steph that morning to get out Ozzy. Like that's not really, I don't know if it's great for his game, but obviously him and Aubrey are able to escape in that Ozzy, plan that they sparked. It ends up going on to Steph, and we'll see how they progress moving forward. But I overall thought that it was, I don't think Steph had a great strategic season. I thought, obviously, like you said, she did tail off a little bit toward the end. But I think here it was just, one of those things where maybe she tried to one up Suri too early, and she kind of got screwed by, Jonathan and Aubrey at this point. I thought that if she has a gripe with anybody, it's really just those two.
Her only way through was to work with Suri, and she was not close enough with her, so she had to go against her. She was just never going to get the better of her. That's just what it is.
It's unfortunate because, again, I thought there was a lot of promise early in the game, and I thought she was reflecting on her past in a decent way that could have been productive. But when push came to shove the last few weeks, she reverted back. And I guess that's kind of how Survivor works sometimes, where some of these people, they just can't help themselves. They really can't. They know one way, and that's how they do it, and they kind of fall on the sword. By the way, she almost won playing that way, so I get it. But her last few showings have, just not lived up to the standard that she set early on. But yes. Good correction. Thank you. Good correction.
Not the first one out, but she did have a rough heroes versus villains. I still think, to be honest with you, she's in the running for MIP at most improved. I think my vote would today be Jonathan, but I still think that she had a good enough season considering her last time out, like you said, out in the premiere episode. That's I didn't expect much from her this season. I thought we actually got a good Stephanie's season for the most part until obviously, it comes up to the point where she has to
I
cut off the
think
tree.
given her age, as far as like what she was able to do physically, and just with like how bad it was last time strategically, I was impressed. I truly was. So I want
She
to give
lost
her
to
credit
Suri.
for that.
Yeah,
But
big deal. She lost to Suri again. Like, that's not like, it's not the
yeah,
worst case scenario for her.
I mean, I don't think it's great when you're losing the same person, even if it's a great this many times in a row,
Well,
spanning decades and other shows. I think that's kind of rough, but regardless, she is in the middle of this OG war. At one point, the predominant names being floated out are Steph, Ozzy, and Saray.
yeah.
Finally, they do bring up Saray's name a little bit here. There is a kind of lame duck attempt from Devins to get Rizzo into the fire. There's also this other plan where Steph's trying to steal Ozzy's vote
Yeah,
and
and vote
then
out Rizzo.
kind of get his idol out, but also vote out Rizzo with his idol in his pocket. So there's a lot going on
We're
here.
starting
There's
to
like
catch
50
on.
vote.
Yeah, they're starting to catch on that it's Rizzo, Ozzy, and Suri. That was the names that they were going after. So it looks like we finally have some sides now.
Yes. And there are like 50 vote plans here. And I kind of appreciated the editing for once. I think that's the first time all season I've said that. I liked the chaos, how it exuded what was actually happening on the island. And especially when we got to tribal, that felt like everyone's kind of brain, where it was like everything is all mushed and all over the place. So I thought the edit did a good job accomplishing that through visual. So I did like that. Shout out to the editing team. You got one right here. And Devins, that was kind of his tribal idea, which is I'm just going to try to summarize everything I've heard today and put
Good
all
to
of
know.
that out into the open. Now, we were trying to figure out, was this a pure desperation move? Is this just Devins being Devins trying to change the game? It was kind of tough to tell because normally this is not a debate. This is a last ditch effort. Almost always it doesn't work, and usually it doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot. Like, you might get some oohs and ahs, and maybe there's a seed planted here or there, but we've seen this movie before, and it sounds better in theory, but once you actually see it on screen, it doesn't work. This, however, was not that. This actually seemed to work to an extent where people are panicking, like, Cerise looking at Devin and saying she believes him with the story that he's telling, which is basically like this Steph Jonathan crowd. They were trying to get out Ozzy. Like they were the ones driving the Ozzy vote. They came to me. They were trying to get him out. And then Stephanie, this is where she lost me, where I didn't even feel bad anymore. She just panics. This is a pee down the leg moment for Stephanie. She basically says, "No, of course not. I would not gun for Ozzy because I don't drive votes. What do you mean I'm trying to get out Ozzy? I don't do that." And then Tiffany says, "Hold on, but if you're not driving votes, then how would Devins know the exact advantage you have if you're not trying to sell him on said vote?" And Stephanie's like, I just don't drive votes. I don't drive votes. I don't know what you want from me. I'm not driving any votes. And it's a terrible defense here. She had like no other line. She just kept repeating herself. She doesn't drive votes.
Right. Here's the thing, though. That was in pertains to the Rizzo vote. So Devin said they were so gung ho on voting Rizzo out to the point where they told me about their Steeler
Well,
vote.
it was both. Yeah, it was both. It was kind
Right.
of like
But she's
all encompassing.
Yeah, but she's more talking about Ozzy because they are OGs and they have a past. So I think for her, like, she's not wrong in saying that she did not lead the Ozzy vote. Like, that's the one part of Devin's story, which, by the way, great summary by Devins here. This is why I said at the beginning of the episode, you don't want to let a guy like Devins know he's at the bottom or know he's a simple plan. Like, Steph comes out and says, there's a simple plan tonight. That was probably him. And then the bells ring off in his head. He's like, okay, maybe I need to blow this thing up. And he does. But that was the one part of his story that was not accurate. Like, Steph was not pitching to him Ozzy. It was Jonathan really that brought it to him. And remember, he said, you tell Emily, I'll get Joe. Stephanie did not come to Rick Devins with the Ozzy plan. She came to Rick Devins with the Rizzo
she did
plan.
not.
And actually, the Rizzo plan was his plan that she was totally game for. So I really questioned why Devins blew everything up. Like, I thought he might have had something going there, but evidently he didn't, or he wouldn't have blown this whole thing up. Like, obviously he felt like he was in trouble here, or I don't think he would do this.
Mike, can I harp on that for a second?
Yeah.
I think he knew the reaction he'd get from Steph. I think he knew that she'd fold under pressure like this. I thought he played it perfectly because obviously it was a lie, and I forgot to mention that part, that it actually wasn't true, and the reason I think she was panicking so much is because it wasn't true.
Right. She's actually
But
telling the truth.
her defense sucked. She did not make it anyone believe that she was telling the truth here, and I think that's because of Devin's demeanor compared to hers. She just completely folded here, and you just can't do that. Whether, again, the other person is telling the truth, lying, it's kind of irrelevant. It is, what does everyone else think is going on? When you are just so unable to mount a defense for yourself and put the facts forward. Part of the reason, by the way, is because she didn't throw Jonathan under the bus, which I thought was kind of a disaster on her part, because she could have done it in a way where it was like, it wasn't just my idea, or it wasn't my idea at
But to
all.
me,
I was told from other people, like,
which is
this
true.
had, but she wasn't willing to go there. She just wasn't.
Even if
And
she
I
did,
think
though,
that
I
bit
don't
her
think
in
they
the
would have
ass a
bought
little
it.
bit.
Even if she did, I think honestly, at this point, this tribal was just Aubrey was a better liar than her. I thought that Aubrey was like, "Oh,
And
really, Steph?"
Devon's.
Of course, and Devon's too. But Aubrey even was like, kind of like, "Really, Steph? Saying that we come to, like, you saying that you didn't come to us?" Like, she didn't. Like, but they bought Aubrey, they bought Rick Devens, and Steph and Jonathan are kind of both arguing that's not all true. Like, that's not, and it's not all true. Like, he did lie about that part, with Steph bringing it to him, which she did not do. But of course, they are not trusting Steph and Jonathan in this case. They are saying that Aubrey and Rick Devens are telling the truth, and ultimately that's why they rented it. I don't think it would have mattered though if she threw Jonathan under the bus, because I really don't think that she was going to go home prior to what happened. I think that Rick Devens was the plan. And I think that once Rick Devens was not the plan, the tribal became live. The tribal was not live prior to that. It was Rick Devens airing out dirty laundry, but no one once got up out of their seat and was changing their vote until Rick Devens became safe. So I think that's really what shifted this whole thing. Was Steph sloppy at tribal council? Percent. Was it the reason she went home? Not entirely. There was another big portion of the game that kind of just was like, hey guys, by the way, we have a briefcase that we have to unveil, and that also will be affecting the game.
Yeah, I couldn't tell based off the edit if Devins was the one that was going to go home. I did think the brilliant part was that he aired everyone out, but he also aired out himself and said that he was going to vote for Rizzo. And then the way that presented himself as being truthful, and then he caught Stephanie flat-footed, where she looked like the liar, I thought was actually a big piece of that.
It was excellent because he comes off as him being truthful because he's also outing himself. Why would he do that if he's telling a lie? And he's actually not telling a lie about that part of the story. Like, he was the Rizzo plan. That was his plan that he came up with. It just, the detail that he left out was the fact that Steph came to him when in reality Jonathan came to him. And then maybe Jonathan is the vote, like you said earlier.
Yeah, I don't know how this never turned on Jonathan. I think it would have been easier to sell everyone on Jonathan. I don't know. I mean, I would love to hear some insight. Perhaps there's something we're missing that we didn't see. I'm not too sure. What we did see, though, was the coin flip of all coin flips here. So Mr. Beast comes back, and Jeff cites Mr. Beast for causing chaos. Like, this is Mr. Beast's idea. I
Here we
bet,
go,
Jeff. I bet Jimmy sat down and did all of this.
Jimmy.
Anywho, so basically, Mr. Beast comes out. We open the briefcase, and we get this dilemma. So you flip the coin. If you land on the side that you want it to land on, the prize pot of the season gets doubled, which is huge. You are safe for this tribal, and you also get an idol going forward. If it does not land on the side you want it to, you are out, which, you know, we could be talking about this episode very differently. If it landed on the outside, I think we'd spend probably 2.5 hours talking about how Survivor's in a terrible place and how it has lost its fans and has no idea what to do anymore.
So
I
lucky.
hope they just made this a double-sided coin. I really do. Like, they could have snuck one in there. Like, I'm not
They're lucky.
one to be upset with rigging this one. That's all I'm saying. Like, if they WWE'd this up, I'm fine with me, man. Fine with me. They should have got fireworks and everything. Like, this is one where the negative could have been so detrimental to this franchise. I truly hope they rigged it, just because, like, I don't even know what to say. We would be ripping this for days. We would have to do another podcast tomorrow ripping this if Devins went home on a coin toss. And I know he wanted to do it. I don't care. I just don't care. I don't care if they forced him to do it at gunpoint. It would have been awful regardless.
We would have gotten a Rick Devens on the, whatever the show is they go on the next morning, hey, Rick Devens, how do you feel about losing you went home on a coin toss? Like, that would have been really bad for the franchise. We totally agree there. We would have had 2 different episodes. So I'm glad that we did not get that outcome, but I do hate that outcome was a possibility, because now I'm almost praying it was rigged. Like, I'm hoping that it was rigged, that they wouldn't actually send him home on a coin toss 50-50. We got the do or die twist in 41. I forget when it was played. I think it was like Final 6.
The lowest rated season of the show's history.
Very, very bad. Very, very bad season that was rated. So maybe let's just not bring coins back. By the way, another side note, we don't spend too much time on it. Why was it not always $2 million to begin with? Winners at War was $2 million. This is as big a season as that, since then at least. So why was it not already $2 million? I'm choosing to believe that it was always going to be doubled and that he was always going to be saved. But I still am never taking that chance. I'm never taking the risk that my game is in the hands of a freaking coin. I'm not going to do that on Survivor ever. If I'm safe, which I think I am, I know he doesn't think he was, but if I'm anyone else besides him, and I think I'm in a decent spot, I'm never flipping that coin, ever.
Which the funny thing about the math he was doing about how he needed to do it to be 50% safe, if anyone else did it, he also would have been 50% safe, and then also would have had the additional chance to play the shot in the dark to stack the whatever 16% on top of the 50%. So did bad math, but I do agree. There was no way that an episode of Survivor on season 50 was not going to end with a vote, like a Jeff reading votes. Like, there was just no way, even down to the editing when they're flipping the coin and there's 18 minutes left in the episode. Like, we kind of know what's going to happen. Like, there was just no way that that's how that was going to end. We would have ripped it for hours. And then I don't know if you guys noticed, but hilarious when the coin flipped and they saw it was heads. Everyone stood up out of their chairs, was jumping up and down. Joe did not move an inch. That guy hates Rick Devens.
He wants Devens out of there for sure. By the way, it would have been the first tribal council with no votes read, since Cirie famously went out with no votes read against her. Like, they didn't even read the votes. Like, Jeff was like, "Yeah, Cirie, you're gone, because it doesn't matter what's in this urn. Everyone else is safe."
That was a Doug McDermott game winner. He would have been the first one out of his chair. But Rick Devens doubling the pot. No moss, man.
Joe's like, first of all, I could have been just as, because here's the thing. I think I texted you guys this. It's a win-win for everybody else. Either Rick Devens flips the coin, I guess not Stephanie, but like everyone else, Rick Devens flips the coin and he's safe. That's good for you because you get $2 million if you win. That's great news. If he's not safe, that's another survivor that's gone, and that increases you go from a 1 in 10 to a 1 in 9 shot at winning $1 million. So I guess Tiff, who was already safe, didn't affect her at all. But for everyone else, the second that Rick Devens says I'm flipping the coin, I'm like, oh, thank God. Either he goes home and I'm one step closer to winning $1 million, or he stays and I'm one step closer to winning $2 million. So there's no lose for me in this. So I thought that overall, like, it's almost like it's the shot in the dark on steroids, because the downside is so much worse than a shot in the dark. Obviously, a shot in the dark is just, if it's right, you're safe, and if it's wrong, big deal, you just lose your vote. Not that big of a downside. And with this, the downside is you go home, which is obviously crucial. Your torch gets snuffed, and that would have been a really awful way to end. That was a pretty good episode.
If you're convinced Cirie wins this season, this is an amazing episode for you, because getting out after a Mr. Beast twist to her resume of how she's lost the show would have just simply been too amazing to make up. So shout out to Cirie and all her stands out there, of which we are part of, because this would have just also added another layer of insult.
If Cirie went home tonight for whatever reason that included this super beware advantage, I would have been in a very cranky mood on this podcast. I would have been very upset. I would have rated the episode lower. So I'm glad
I thought when we didn't know the Mr. Beast advantage, I was imagining a world in which Ozzy and Rizzo both played their idols, and then Cirie somehow went home, but no, she survived. I mean, there's going to be another ridiculous twist next week. This is season 50.
We can't get one week off.
That we know what we're getting, but so far so good.
So just wrapping this up here, Steph uses her steal a vote. We get a live tribal after the coin flip here. And I mean, Steph's just DOA, which makes me think, because it's a unanimous vote, was that always the plan? Because did a unanimous vote really come together that quickly? I don't really know what side I'm on. Like, you could sway me either way. It was either Devens all the time, or perhaps it was just gonna be stuff. The problem is, conventional wisdom is obviously it's Devens. He flipped the coin and then he laid out everyone's dirty laundry. The problem is it's also Devens. So, like, of anyone in the history of the show to just do that,
It would be him.
it's Devon's, like, pretty clearly. So it's really tough to analyze when he's involved in the equation.
I hope we get a little bit of a clear up after the season's over of like what actually would have happened had Devon's. Well, I mean, what would have happened is he would have just went home on the coin toss. But if there was no coin toss to begin with, if there was just an actual vote with Devon's on the table, does he go home? I think
Yeah, or someone else flips the coin.
or someone else. Yeah, exactly. Or if someone else flips the coin and they are safe. Like if Rizzo flipped it, I think Rizzo mentioned in the group chat, he was like, I wanted to flip it, but then Sari was like, you better sit down. Don't do that. And obviously tribal councils are edited. Like tribal councils are very, very long. That's what we know from when people have gone to them. They're like multiple hours. Like we only get like 15 minutes of it in our episode, but they're long tribals. They're not sitting there for like 12 minutes. So it could have been after the coin was flipped, we still got another hour that we didn't see. Like it was very possible that after Emily was so confused and Rizzo was like, I don't know what's going on. I got to get on the right side of the vote here. Very possible that all those talking in live tribals, that they were able to come with a consensus and get Stephanie out. But we saw a few of Stephanie's conversations with Ozzy. He's like, should I play my steal a vote? And Ozzy's like, I think you should save it. I think at that point that told me, okay, maybe Ozzy's lying right to her face, because I think Ozzy's going to vote her out right now, and he wants her to just not take anyone's vote. That was my kind of guess there. I don't know how everyone else landed on Stephanie. Like, I'm still trying to figure out how Jonathan voted for Stephanie. Like, he was with her. I don't really understand that one, because even Emily says to him, let's vote out Steph or something like that. And he's like, you're full of it or whatever it is. Like, he's not down with that. And suddenly he votes.
No. It was to vote out Aubrey. That's what
Aubrey,
it was.
that's right. Yes. By the way, Aubrey is seemingly he's now closer with Aubrey than he is Steph. That's what we've learned from this episode. He was.
And by the way, Mike, there is, which I don't think I mentioned, at the live tribal, it wasn't just Steph whose name was floated out. Aubrey was being floated out a decent amount.
Yeah.
It was kind of hard to determine who started that, but it was interesting to me that kind of out of thin air, her name was being brought up. Obviously, it didn't amount to anything, but just the fact that she was being presented was interesting.
I think you know why. I think because Stephanie perceived Aubrey as the one who concocted the Aussie plan, and she sees Stephanie take the fall for it, and she's kind of like agreeing with Devon's and Devon's points. And I think at that point, I think it was maybe Stephanie. I don't know for sure. I have to rewatch it again because that tribal was so confusing. My head was in 10 different places. So I really don't know who stirred the Aubrey vote. But if I had to guess, I would have guessed Steph, because I think Steph is the most scorned by Aubrey, kind of going along with this Rick Devens thing, even though she knows that it's Aubrey and Jonathan who brought the Aussie plan to her. So I think at that point, it's almost like, I want to vote you out now because we saw it in Traders at the end where it's like, you threw my name out, now I'm going to come after you. Like you see me take the fall for this, and I'm going to, shift on it. I never wanted to get Ozzy out anyways. That was your plan that you brought to me, and now I get to just take you out.
Think another thing here that is being lost a bit. Like, Rizzo still has an idol that no one seems to care about. They bring it up once an episode, and they kind of just, put it in the corner. Rizzo also has an idol because Ozzy doesn't play his. Everyone looks at him. Rizzo's just over there smiling. He's like,
they're much more worried about Ozzy
too.
And they're going to care much more about Rick Devens' new idol now as well.
Good point. Yes, because now there's 3 idols in the game. So advantage again, which is what got Suri out in Game Changers. We do have 3 known people with an individual immunity or a hidden immunity idol that they could use at any point. So that is obviously very dangerous. And eventually those guys have to be looked at.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you have to vote them out, or else you end up in the Cerise situation where everyone left plays an idol.
That's not good.
So obviously at this point, Steph gets burned bad, unanimous vote out. This is the other half of my being on the right side of every vote. I think if you actually asked,
how is this unanimous?
What were there? There were 10 people, right? If you asked all 10 people heading in, who do you really want out? Who's the biggest threat? I'm not sure Stephanie's name comes up once. Who's the biggest threat? Who do you really want out of this game right at this exact time? So the fact that she's the unanimous vote here is just perplexing to me. I don't really understand it. I think really it would have been masterful if they were able to convince them that it was a unanimous vote and then voted out Jonathan at the same time. So then that shows that they weren't really the honor integrity crowd didn't have Steph's best interest in mind, but Suri, Ozzy, all of them were actually able to vote out Jonathan. Maybe you get Steph back as being sorry. There could have been a masterful move there. We just didn't get it. So
I'm just shocked. Honestly, I'm shocked that there was not at least 3 names written down. I really thought that Ozzy would get a vote or 2 just to get him to, I don't know. He got 2 last tribal, and it seemed like he was more heat on in this tribal, and he didn't get any votes.
No Suri, no Jonathan.
Jonathan votes, no Suri votes. I thought at least somebody would vote them. I'm shocked that Jonathan voted Stephanie. I mean, even in the Coach Chrissy vote out, he did not vote out Coach and Chrissy. He voted out I believe he voted out. Who did Jonathan and Christian vote out in that Coach Chrissy episode? It was not Coach and Chrissy.
No.
I think it was Aubrey and Devins. And then
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
I think
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
because he didn't believe it was a real idol.
Right, he did not believe it was real, and then I think Coach and Chrissy voted for Rizzo and Emily, and they were like, "Yeah, thanks, Chrissy." But yeah, he's not been voting with the consensus on that one. Like he saw Coach and Chrissy go home, he did not want to vote out his allies there. In this case, he just turns and votes out Steph. I thought that was very. Maybe we didn't see it. I don't know, but if you got into tribal council and told me that Jonathan will be voting out Stephanie tonight, I would have been like, "No way!" Like I'm just calling bull. I would have called bull on that. I would have called bull on Joe voting Stephanie out as well. I'm surprised that both of them voted Steph, but I'm not shocked about Joe. I guess because Joe did reveal that plan to Sari. So I guess he would have done whatever Sari did. But with Jonathan and Aubrey, I thought they'd vote together, and I did not think they'd vote out Steph both.
It didn't matter, obviously, but what was her stealing Devin's vote like a smoke screen to then vote for Aubrey? Because you'd think strategically you would always want to steal the vote of the person's name who you're writing down.
Or you could try to steal the vote of someone with an idol and then spook them into playing it. She didn't even do that. She just
Right.
stole the guy's vote
Who's safe?
like, yeah.
The plan pre-tribal, which has happened before, it's not foreign, is you vote for somebody, you steal the vote of somebody who has an idol. They get them to play that idol, but then you vote for the other person, and you blindside the other person. In that case, I think it would have been Rizzo. You steal Ozzy's vote, and then you vote Rizzo out, or vice versa, whatever. But you at least spook somebody into playing an idol. That didn't happen, and she didn't even vote for. Obviously, she can't vote for Devins, but she stole his vote and then voted for Aubrey. I just thought the whole thing was sloppy. And again, maybe we just didn't see a lot of tribal council, but I just thought that she kind of panic played the steal a vote. Like I don't think she really wanted to play it. It just became a thing where it's like, oh crap, we can't vote for Devins now. So who's the vote? I guess she was trying to just steal Devins and then vote Aubrey. I don't know if she ever had the numbers to get Aubrey out. Obviously, she didn't. I just don't know how that would have ever, kind of came to fruition.
Yeah, I think she was just trying to have like a wow moment before everyone went and voted, maybe to cause another scramble. But clearly, the other 8 people who were voting had come to a consensus they were going to write her name down. So
Before we get to our segment of the week here, I do want to say next week we can all look forward to Billie Eilish. Don't worry, she's not actually going on Survivor. She's just previewing her new movie. So Billie Eilish, the super fan, blesses us with her movie. Isn't that?
At least we saw something from Billie Eilish this season. I was really like, I was like the Leonardo DiCaprio gif where I was like on my couch pointing. I was like, oh, there she is. We've been heard about her all year. We had like 4 Billie Eilish idols.
Yeah, don't worry, it's just an ad. It's not actually impactful.
But she said that she's a big Survivor fan. Like she at least said those words. I'm like, okay, sure, I guess.
Well, that's what the cue card said, Mike. So she had to say it.
Yeah, Zach Brown, same thing. Big Survivor fans. Big Survivor fans. I don't know.
It is that time of the week. We are still waiting for a sponsor. If you are a local pizza chain, a crypto company, anything but adult entertainment, we are looking for you. Stick up, stock down. Only one because it's late in the season here. One for each. We'll start positive with stock up. Mike, please begin.
I'm going to take Tiff here. I think Tiff had a really good episode. I think we were both a little bit down on her last week. It was like maybe it's the GOAT, the GOAT role of the season. I think she's playing. I think Theo made a good point about her always being in the hammock with Sari. I think it's a big thing. I think I'd want to be in the hammock with Sari more often. You're getting the knowledge of what's going on, and it looks like you're in the power position of you're going to be on the right side of the vote, and you're kind of helping steer things, which is kind of where you want to be. We talk about the being on the right side of the vote thing. It's not just being on the right side of the vote. It's also having knowledge and influence on what the vote's going to be. I think, she's getting more influence as the week goes. I think that Joe, we mentioned it briefly in the early first 20 minutes. I think that Joe running and telling Sari and Tiff is a big deal. And it's also a big deal for Tiff because Tiff clearly has gotten Joe more onto her side than his initial, when tribal lines were not blurred yet, where he was with Jonathan on the second tribe swap, and then he was with Coach, and he was with Colby, and those people in staff. Like he was with that group. It seems like in this episode now he's more with the Tiff and Sari and that group with Ozzy and them. And I think that has something to do with him planting that seed with Tiffany on that duos episode. I think that's a big deal. I'm going to give credit to Tiffany on this one as well. So I think overall, obviously, you win an immunity challenge. That's big. You help steer a vote. That's big. And I think that you also gained a big ally in Joe that's kind of been in the workings here for a couple episodes.
Deal.
yeah, this one, but Rick Devens as a player and as a character, just massive episode for him. He stays in the game, he gets the advantage, but just the way things went down, I've looked at a couple message boards and stuff, people are talking about him as being like a top 10 most entertaining player of all time after tonight. And I don't think they're wrong. I mean, just the amount of like
Peter.
just chaos and just scenarios you couldn't have imagined that have come into this season specifically because of one Rick Devens. I got to give him a lot of credit. Yeah, he's might be the face of the franchise this season.
You just love Rick Devens. I love his game. I want him back like 5 more times. I just think he's phenomenal to watch.
I think so. It's Devens. It is obvious, but like I don't even know where to begin here. So yes, as a character, I mean, he's going to be back 100%. There's no doubt about it. He will be back for a third time in some capacity. He is so fun. And I don't think anyone is better in Survivor history with their back against the wall. Even if he goes out next episode, it doesn't matter. Like, he just finds ways to navigate. And, like, even if Mr. Beast isn't in this episode, I think that is one of the best airing out laundry pitches I've ever heard in this show. Perhaps it doesn't lead to anything. We'd have to, see probably postseason. We'll get some answers on that. But I think the attempt was unbelievable. Like, usually that just comes off as the person spilling the information too late. But he didn't really bring up any past transgressions. He focused on specifically that day and things that were relevant to that tribal council. He wasn't talking about things that happened on day 10 or day 12. That's where people usually make the mistake. He was focused on that current day, the events that happened, and he had targets in mind. He called out specific people that he thought were kind of on the brink that perhaps could go out before him. And, with Mr. Beast around, he doubles the prize pot. He gets an idol. So now he has that. He hasn't even found one yet. Who knows if he's able to get his mitts on another one.
He's dangerous.
I'd love to see him searching for one since somehow that just hasn't been a thing. So Devin's just unbelievable stuff here. He has secured himself an invite back. And he's not new era and he's not old era, but I think he's establishing himself as like a Survivor Pantheon person. Like, if this is like a first ballot Hall of Fame where there's like 10, 15 people, I think he's actually like putting himself in there. He's at least in the conversation. He's looking at property in the neighborhood. So I think that means a lot because we haven't seen a lot of people from his range. I'd say 30 to now really establish themselves as like legit like tier 1 Survivor players, not just from a like acclimate standpoint. We've had a few of those like amazing game players, but a total package, both great game player and great personality. Devens has done that, so I can't praise him enough. He was phenomenal today. But on the flip side, someone's making a fool of themselves clearly because someone has to be our stock down. Mike, start us this time. Who's your stock down of the week?
Yeah, so real quick, before stock down, I do want to just get a real quick opinion on when Devens was making his phenomenal pitch that we both agree was a great pitch. He was talking about 3 people. He's like, these 3 people are kind of saying everyone's name. He mentioned Steph and Jonathan. Who was the third person he was talking about? Like, I'm trying to figure out because he said we can pick off these 3, and I was like, these 3. I'm like,
Joe, I think.
Oh, Joe. Okay. See, I thought he was talking about Aubrey, but I guess clearly not because Aubrey was also just like corroborating. She was like, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with everyone saying. So maybe it was Joe, but like, what is Joe doing with those 2 other people? Like, he's not with them really. Obviously, he's with Serene them. So
I
think he's
honor
just
integrity.
Yeah, he's just lumped in.
Interesting. I don't know. That one kind of took me out of left field. It's like, who's the third person he's talking about?
He did start honing in on Steph, and then Tiffany did some heavy lifting with that comment that I think really shook everyone up.
It did end up getting to Steph more so than anyone else, but he did mention 3 names, and I was like, he's like, if we can get together and pick off these 3 people, I'm like, what's 3 people? Like, obviously, I know he's talking about Steph, and he's talking about Jonathan, because they're kind of together, but is Aubrey now assigned with them? But why would he be throwing Aubrey under the bus? I really didn't know who it was. Maybe he said Joe by name and I just missed it, but I also would not classify Joe as being with them. So maybe I just miscalculated that. But so my stock down would be, boy, yeah, it's got to be somebody, right? I almost wanted to give stock up to everybody because they doubled their prize money and they all survived this week. I would say, I'm going to go with Jonathan here just because, again, you lost another ally. I mean, it's just how many more allies can you lose? Now, the entire jury outside of D are pro-Jonathan, I think. Like, he is losing a lot of pro-Jonathan players. Maybe if he makes the final 3, that could be interesting. But I just don't know. Like, he has Aubrey right now, but who else does he pivot to?
Mike,
like,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I think perhaps on regular seasons, people just being pro you matters. I think this season they're committed to voting for the best person. I don't really think that's gonna be a part of the equation. Like, yes, they like him, but if he's not worthy, I don't think he's gonna get votes.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I kind of just happen to think he is worthy right now. I think he's playing a good game. Like, I know he's my stock down this week, but I think overall, if he gets to the end, then he would have obviously had to stock up somehow. I don't know how it's
Right.
gonna happen, but I'm just saying, like, if he gets to the final three, he has enough people that like him already as a person, and then if he has a strong finish, like Aubrey mentioned in Co Wrong, which was what Michelle did, then there's people that already like you to begin with, and you have that closing game, which is what Michelle had in Co Wrong, that the jury was able to vote for them at the end. So I think there's still a way for Jonathan to win the game because there is people on the jury that like him outside of D. But right now he's losing a lot of allies. Can he get to the final three with losing all these allies right now? Like, he's got to pivot to somebody else now. Joe clearly does not fully trust Jonathan because he went and told Jonathan to Suri and Tiff. I don't know how much Emily and Devins trust Jonathan. I don't know if they trust him fully. Suri, Rizzo, and Ozzy obviously have their type three, so I don't really know where he falls in. I think he's more lumped with Aubrey, and we'll see what they do as a pair and how they can navigate their way past this middle stage of the game.
Yeah, I'd say Jonathan too. I was trying to see, like, I don't think there's gonna be a ton of fallout from this Steph vote out. Obviously, like, everyone voted for her, but like
Yeah.
Jonathan's been like the bringing up names guy, and we're kind of running out of names to bring up now. Like, you kind of can't go after Devins now. Like, Ozzy and Rizzo are still tough with the idol. He's obviously like working with Aubrey, kind of working with Joe. So does that leave him, like, is his next name he's gonna bring up is gonna be Sari? Like,
I think so.
if that's what I think's gonna happen, and if it's those two going head to head, I think Sari is just better in those situations and has better numbers on her side right now. Obviously, there's probably gonna be another twist that'll shake the game up next week, but just trying to predict next week's episode, I could see us heading to a Sari Jonathan type thing that would lead to Jonathan being next in the boo order.
That would be my one question: is it Jonathan versus Suri or is it Aubrey versus Suri? Because remember, Aubrey and Suri had a partnership kind of in Game Changers. Like, they weren't always on the right side of they weren't always voting together, but they have like history on that show together. So I wonder if Jonathan's next target is Suri and he approaches Aubrey with that news. How would that go? How would an Aubrey versus Suri round two? How would that play out? And if he's able to get a Suri out, would that be huge for his game? Obviously, I just don't know if he has the numbers to do that. Like, it would take somebody idling out Suri, maybe.
So he doesn't, because I was just thinking about this. Sari, as of right now, is a pretty core four: herself, Rizzo, Ozzy, and then Tiffany. Feels like Joe is more in the Sari camp than the other camp. Regardless of where Joe is, though, they also have an extra vote at their disposal. Not to mention, two of those guys have idols. Now, it is important to mention they can't play those idols on Sari. So they are limited to just playing them on themselves. So that makes the idols, I guess, a little less important because they don't have the volatility of, like, you not knowing where the idol is going to be played. But they seemingly are in the driver's seat at this point where, like, one more person on the other side out and they can just kind of ride into the sunset. So they're really struggling to mount in opposition.
Also,
That's why my stock down, Mike,
yeah,
is
real quick before you
Aubrey.
start down. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Well, real quick, they also can't. No boomerang would go back to, like, Genevieve's out of the game. So even if Ozzy or Rizzo were to go home with the idol in their pocket, no one's getting that idol back. Like, it's gone with Genevieve at this point. So that's another big thing where it's like they have to play it. There's no, like, it's not like you get your alliance member gets to get it in return and you can still keep it. Like, that's not in the cards now. So obviously Ozzy and Rizzo have to play the idols and they have to play it for themselves, like you said.
Right. My stock down is Aubrey because for a few reasons. She decided her big move a few episodes ago was to link with Jonathan. That's who she was going to attach herself to. Jonathan has just kind of deteriorated since then. Like, he's losing allies left and right. His strategic acumen, it was pretty good this episode, but it's been better earlier in the season. So he's going a little sideways. Aubrey now is trying to attach herself to Devins again after admitting that she didn't want to do that. So I don't really understand what she's trying to accomplish. And furthermore, her big thing tonight was she's ready to make a big move and her numbers are dwindling. Honestly, she kind of needed Stephanie as a number. She really did. Despite everything that happened, I think she understood that Stephanie was a soldier in her army. if they lose another person next week, they're kind of done. Like, it's over unless they start winning like immunity necklaces out of nowhere and they can just survive that way. Her and Jonathan, like,
Jonathan can definitely do it.
they're just running out of time here, like, very clearly. And I think it's admirable that she said she wanted to play a better late game and start to make bigger moves at this time. But that's what I was talking about earlier. You can't start now. You can't start on day 19. You have to have a foundation heading into day 19 where then you can come out of the bushes and be the big piranha and eventually get everyone out that you need to get out. You can't start swinging for the fences on day 19. It doesn't work that way. So it's kind of admirable to hear her say, like, this is where I messed up last time and this is where I need to improve. But in a way, she didn't fully understand why she messed up last time. She messed up last time because she was a bit too hot in the beginning, and then she kind of let go of the reins at the end where she wasn't able to massage her early game being so aggressive to the jury, and that's ultimately why she lost. And whether you believe she deserved to lose is irrelevant. That's what happened. So this time around, she almost laid too low. By the way, she hasn't done anything really positive. She burned an idol for no reason. She got kind of punked into doing that. All we've heard from her is big words. I haven't seen her do anything productive. I can't think of anything that she has done that has impressed me this entire season.
No,
She's
we're
talked
getting
to massive games. She's delivered 0 times.
we're getting to Mitch levels of I'm gonna make my big move here with Aubrey.
Well, here's the thing. Aubrey keeps teasing it. She's like, I'm ready to make big moves, like big, bold moves. I think that picking up Jonathan was the right move, like at the time, too, because he was losing allies, like you said. I think it's actually the right time to scoop up a Jonathan on your side. And it looks like she has done that. I would say I still think Rick Devens is a way bigger target than her. So I think whether you want to attach himself, whether you want to attach yourself to him or not, whether the timing is, she keeps going back and forth. But Rick Devens is always going to be a bigger target than her, in my opinion. Like right now, with the way he's playing, like even if
He does have an idol, though, so there
Yeah.
is that element of it of, is she caught in the crossfire now? The closer she reverts back to Devens, is it like they're trying to flush Devens' idol out and then Aubrey's the fallback? That's also something she has to worry about now.
Right, 100%. But it's also like you talked about tonight, they were also considering splitting votes on Devens and Emily. I think Emily's also another one of those plan B persons who's with Devens. They're like a public duo at this point. So if now that Devens has a real idol, he should be playing it because Devens, I can guarantee right now, will be receiving votes at every single tribal council until he goes home. Like he's just that big of a threat. I mean, he's getting to the level of Mike Holloway in season 30, where it's just like, okay, he's too big of a threat right now. Even at the bottom, you have to consistently have him as an option to be voted out. He's going to get votes whether he plays the idol or not. Whatever. We have to make sure our other bases are safe. But Devens is going to receive votes. Who's the plan B to that? I think if I'm Aubrey, I'd want to be,
I will say, I think Flippin's kind of become a joke of the season. Like, I think
I forgot she
Aubrey
was
has
even
to
here.
be the plan B now, right? Like, I think Flippin has actually played herself out of being the plan B at these tribals.
Well, I mean, at this point, I thought that she's had like the worst
If
season.
she says your name, you are not going home. We did it again. We're 10 episodes in.
By the
It's
way-
never happened. Tonight, it was Ozzy. She's
Did you know
like,
what Ozzy
I
said
want
that?
Ozzy out. We voted him last time. I'm so good with this. It didn't happen.
She didn't even vote for him. She's like, I'm going to vote him again tonight, two nights in a row. I'm going to vote his name out. I'm going to be happy doing it. And it's like, you didn't. You voted Steph out, like the rest of the group. It's just like Emily's another one. Talks a big game. She has not delivered on anything that she said so far. Like she's been like, oh, I'm going to take out this person. It's like, no, you're not. Like you're not gonna do that.
Tiffany was showing some goat traits, but she's winning a little now, and she's
some inroads.
thinking. I still think she's on that trajectory, to be totally honest. But I'd be more worried about her speaking at the end and trying to win over a jury than anything Flippin could possibly accomplish.
Well,
I
let's be
think
real here.
Flippin is easily GOAT 1 right now.
Well, let's be real here. Tiffany's kind of just replaced Flippin in Cerie's hierarchy. Like she's kind of just replaced her. Remember in the pre-merge, Emily was the person that Cerie would go to, kind of be like with the hand over their head and like, okay, here's what we're doing. Here's get the numbers here. Tiffany's kind of replaced her. Now you see Tiffany with Cerie all the time, and you see Emily like distance off with Devens, and they're like public enemy number 1 and 2. At this point, maybe Emily has just become a joke that she's not even public enemy number 1, 2, or 3. We'll see. I just kind of think that she's always like a backup plan because no one really trusts her with any information, because you know why. I don't know. I mean, she's clearly attached to Devens, which at this point seems like you're attaching yourself to the biggest threat on the island at this point, maybe a top 10 character in terms of entertainment on the show. But in terms of this entertainment, they want that off the island. They do not want to be having to deal with Devens anymore in this game if they don't have to. He's obviously a great player playing from the bottom. And now obviously he knows he's on the bottom, so he's gonna be even more hectic and more chaotic. So you want to just eliminate that threat, and if he saves himself, eliminate whoever he's closest to.
Well, and Devins wants to pull off like big shocking moves, and you cannot do that if you're playing with Flippin. So, like, even if he's like giving off the appearance that they're playing together, like we've already seen, like he's not gonna let her in on any of like his plots or his plans or like any big things he's gonna do. So yeah, she really is just floating around as a goat.
And I don't know if this matters at all. Someone brought it up on. I saw it on one of the things where they looked at who's following other people on social media. The only person that Rick Devens and Emily are not following are each other. That's a little weird to me from the season. Like,
Really?
yeah, that was
Interesting.
said as like 4 episodes ago. I was like, why is that? Because they were working together on the show.
Hopefully that's not a spoiler. That's big. I didn't know that.
It's weird because some people do this for they're gonna stalk at everyone's Instagram and be like, okay, who are they following? Who are they not following? Apparently Chrissy's only not following Rizzo. I don't know, but they're Emily.
Yeah,
and
like that
Devin,
doesn't really mean anything.
that doesn't really
right?
mean
Like,
anything.
But
But
that because
Emily and
Rick was
Devin-
not someone that would be bitter about like anything that could happen on Survivor. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I just don't know what could have possibly happened.
Yeah, that's a
Hasn't
weird
happened
one.
yet. Like it seems like they're a duo right now. I don't know what could possibly happen that makes them not follow each other on Instagram. I don't know if it means anything. It might mean nothing. I have no idea. But right now,
regardless of that point, we need Devins back just so he's not shackled by Flippin next time. I just want to see him as a solo. I think if Flippin wasn't there and Christian was just voted out, like Devins is still a big target, but I think he'd have more upward mobility. I think truly Flippin is an anchor for him,
she's
which is
anchoring him down.
unfortunate.
Yeah, she's anchoring him down.
Anything else here? And anything else either this week or looking into next week? The preview kind of sucked, to be
It did.
totally honest. Like,
yeah, we didn't get
yeah.
much.
we got absolutely nothing from that. There was a few tears, I guess, but that was
I wrote down nothing. I said Aubrey and Joe say it's now or never. It's just more Aubrey big dog. I got nothing from that trailer. I mean, the trailer showed me absolutely nothing other than Aubrey telling Joe it's now or never. That's all I picked up. I was like, okay, that's
that
interesting.
honestly could be a replay from 3 weeks ago. I wouldn't have known.
It could be from day 5, day 10. I have no idea.
If she's selling the big move to Joe, it's not happening. I'll tell you that right now.
Joe's not going to go on with that. So I don't know. The trailer looks kind of bad, but that's what it is.
I did like I don't know if you caught it. Joe did a coach today. I audibly laughed. He did the coach logic where he said like Ozzy might burn him later, so he can burn Ozzy now. I loved it. That is so coach coded.
You
It
got a
was
point.
freaking amazing. I was like, yep, that's honor and integrity.
Yes, he is following the coach code to a T right now. He is literally, I mean, walk stepping right. That's literally straight from Token Sheens, probably. It's unbelievable.
Real quick before we wrap up here, any like big picture things right now? We're gonna be on day 20. There's 9 people left. Anything you guys are like looking for, think could happen, whether it's predictions, just questions, whatever you guys have.
This is interesting endgame to me because we got 9 left. We have 3 individuals with public hidden immunity idols.
Now, remember, allegedly the best endgame ever, which now we're down to 3 episodes to make that a reality.
And by the way, 4 straight episodes of unanimous votes at Tribal Council. So I'm expecting major things for these last 3, obviously, because we keep getting unanimous vote outs. I mean, it's not even like a 5-4. Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So I'm interested to see how these idols get played. Someone's getting idled out. Like we have 3 known idols now with 9 left. Someone's gonna get voted out with like 3 votes against them. It's gonna be like, wow. So when I'm waiting for that to happen here, I don't know who it's going to be. That's the big move that Aubrey's going to be talking about. Like who's going to be able to pull that off and kind of wow the jury. That's what I'm looking at for these last 3 episodes.
Yeah, we need a payoff from Cerise Wizard of Oz. I mean, it's a great alliance, but we need a signature move, maybe 2. I mean, I'd like to see them play for as long as possible. Big fan of their dynamic, but I'm just excited for that signature move.
Yeah, they need to move. Safri's not a move. That's not like a winning move at the end. They need an actual like, oh my gosh, this is what wins you the game.
2 things for me. 1, I think it's going to be interesting to see, is there actually a move that changes the trajectory of the game? I'm not just talking about like, you get Jonathan out and then you just go through the motions. I mean like a true like signature moment that defines season 50 where like there's a fake of some sort. There's something big happens where it's not just like a normal, you're voted out with our extra vote and then you're voted out because we have the numbers and all of that stuff. is there actually going to be this like unbelievable, like historic moment that transpires at a tribal in particular? Because I think tribals have kind of sucked this season, to be totally honest. I think it's been kind of disinteresting every time we go there. We just know what's going to happen. And the editing does a valiant effort sometimes. I think the best editing from the show this season has been around like tribals and perhaps making you think the very last second someone could be on the chopping block. But, you know, it just really hasn't led to much. The other thing as well, we're about to be 20 days in, and I mentioned it a few times. I mentioned it tonight too. Is anyone going to search for an idol? Like, is that going to matter at all? Are they not there? Is that the reason why? And that's just never explicitly been said
Well,
that
no,
idols aren't being able to be found in the wilderness?
they have to be played, and then one at camp is planted again. So no one's playing idols, which means, unfortunately, there are none to be replaced. I think the only one that was played was Aubrey's, and it was replaced.
Was the Aubrey idol just became the Beast idol? Is that what we're led to
Maybe,
believe?
but no one looked. So yeah, that was the only
Yeah,
one that was.
that's what I'm saying. No one even theorized that, and when like I believe Devin said he had to find a real idol to supplement his fake idol, but
Yeah.
we didn't actually see him go search. So it felt like, at least at that moment, he believed that there was a potential of an idol out there. So that's why I'm like, no one's ever gonna search for one of these bad boys again. Like, we're just done with that.
Maybe the other thing I'd point out would be the tribal councils. Winners at War had like 4 or 5 straight blindsides. I mean these tribals have really been lackluster. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm expecting much better tribals because that's the only thing. If we at my episode review would be an 8.5 because the point 5 is that these tribals are just not leaving me with anything like crazy. Like I'm not coming out here like, oh my gosh, that tribal was nuts. It was nuts for like the Mr. Beast and all, but after that we got a live tribal and a unanimous vote. It's like, okay, seen that before. Like I'm getting left with a little bit like this end game. We got 3 episodes left. I'm hoping for some elected tribal councils because that's the only part of the episode that I'm really like, man, that was really good for like an hour and 45 minutes. In the last 15 minutes, I was like, okay, it's like unanimous, and it didn't really like it wasn't a big. It's not like it was a big unanimous vote either. It's not like, oh my gosh, Jonathan went home or something like Ozzy got voted out. Holy cow, what a move! It wasn't anything like that either. So it's just like there's leaving a there's leaving a little bit left on the plate. I think there's a little bit more meat left on the plate that they could obviously kind of make this season an all time great.
I think there's also too many people who just simply don't really have a winner's case, and their path for a winner's case is just incredibly tough. So, like, flipping, absolutely no chance. I think Joe has a real uphill battle from here. I think Tiff has a real uphill battle from here. I don't really see a world where any of those 3 win. So then we're immediately down to 6.
I don't know how Devins gets to the final 3.
Yeah, I don't know how Devins gets there, either. So then we're
5.
down to 5.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, if Ozzy and Sari don't make it to the end together, vote out will be very dramatic and very sad. I think we mentioned this. There is a world where Ozzy could play again. He's only 44, so we could see him back. There's no doubt about it. Sari, there's absolutely no chance. So if it's Sari who goes out, regardless of the method, unless it's a win, so it's going to be very sad. She'll get a standing ovation. Rizzo will cry. So we'll get all of that. So there's a few things to look forward to. But right now, unless things change, like 5.5 people can win this game with 3 episodes left. So I don't know how that breeds an all-time end game. I guess we'll have to find out.
Someone's going to separate from those 5.5. I don't know who's going to be. But someone's got to.
I mean, right now, if we did voting, Sari's a unanimous MVP, right? Is anyone else even receiving a vote?
I think Ozzy.
Maybe Ozzy receives a vote.
Yeah, I think he's receiving votes. I just
Yeah.
think he's very distant. It's like,
Do you think? But here's the problem, though. So we talk about this in sports sometimes, where it like feels like another person should get votes, right? But when you actually like, it comes down to it, are you actually voting Ozzy over Sari?
I'd have to hear a legitimate case. I don't think it's Steph 2016 unanimous. I think Ozzy would get a vote. I'd have to hear a case.
It's like the Shaq one where the Philly reporter got upset with Shaq, so he voted Iverson and stuff.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Maybe. I think that I would give Ozzy a little more credit than that, but like I think he's playing a good game. It just happens to be like Sari's having like a historic season.
Yeah, and Cerise helped him a lot.
Sari's definitely
Yeah,
helped him.
I think that's kind of what I'm getting.
little
at.
Mc-
Sari's the
McDavid
reason
Draisaitl-y.
why.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
vice versa. I think he's also helped her a lot. If Ozzy's out of this game, I think that Sari's game is. I mean, she'd obviously be fine, but I think that it would hurt her game for sure if Ozzy's not here. Like Ozzy being in the game is indirectly helping Sari a lot. and she's keeping him in the game.
Okay.
No, because let's be real here. If Ozzy was not that important to Cerie's game, she would have let him go in the last 3 tribal councils because he's been a target now 3 straight episodes. So the fact that he's still
I
here
mean,
means
it does.
Cerie knows.
Like you want your number one ally in, you know.
Also, but it's also because he's such a big shield too. Like he's always going to be a person that he's finished top 2 in every single one of these immunity challenges. Like he's almost won all of them.
Which, by the way, that kind of goes back to my point earlier. I think she's kind of letting the foot off the gas, protecting him more by getting out people that presumably not only could beat him, but outthink that coalition as well. The
Well,
Wizard
and
of
his
Oz,
reactions have been much duller because I want to say because it's not even a whole season thing. Like when he got kind of like blindsided by the vote at the beginning, like he got pissed at Christian, but now like he's hearing his names coming up and like
Good.
he's easy about it. He's like, okay, that's fine. We're gonna be all right here.
Yeah, it
Oh, I
helps.
forgot to mention that the season going on, he said it at least 2 or 3 times that he does not want to go out again with an idol in his pocket. I just want to pin that.
Right.
I'm not saying he does. I'm just perhaps he gets a little trigger happy. He did it tonight, which I was actually pretty impressed with. I thought for sure he was just going to do it out of abundance of caution, but he didn't. So we'll see if that ends up mattering too. If he actually goes home again with an idol in his pocket.
I hope he doesn't. I'm rooting for Ozzy.
I hope he doesn't either because he's played so well. I'd
No.
actually feel really bad for him if it
Another
put a pretty big stain on his run right now.
MIP.
Yeah, I think he's right in that mix. But anyway, we will be back next week for episode 11. Not many more here. We're getting in the home stretch. You guys should be expecting a little bit more Survivor content beyond our natural reaction video here on Wednesdays because, apparently this is a historic endgame. We'll probably do an awards show. We might do something geared towards just like predictions for the end. We did that for Big Brother last season. So we're thinking of doing something similar now for Survivor. We have some mini games coming up on the channel throughout the week as well. We're going to be posting more independent beyond just the confines of our show as well. Just some like committed stuff for, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. If you haven't already, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. For Theo, for Mike, I am X. We are the Gurus, and we will see you next time. Peace.